interesting on Jay Coper's side, and then the Black Mage, of course, gets you the access to the higher level Black Mage spells that Red Mage can't use. It looks like we are just about ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. So as the gates have opened, the horses are leaving. Let us see what we have got here.
First things first, in White Magic, not much to get excited about at level 1. And same story in Black. Oh, this isn't pretty. We've got level 1 Rub, which is a passable single target instant death, and there is not much else to write home about.
That Rub will be very interesting on Garland. I think Rub will take out Garland, no problem. The problems are going to be getting to Garland and what happens next, because depending on... we're still running the Swiss flags in this, so depending on what the King and Sarah give out for items, it could be a treacherous walk depending on which direction they're going to go into. And it looks like Broster's going to give us a look at the item shop here.
Yeah, we had some wooden armor for sale, so that's going to help out Jay Coper's Thief. Other than that, nothing too exciting. And we have Unrunnable Wolves right off the bat here, so Jay Coper's going to think about this one.
We also have 55 gold tents. Not cheap until later when you have a boatload of money, as Bratster and Will Cleosis are kind of high-fiving with this Unrunnable Wolf encounter.
Yeah, if you dodge around the imps and get to that forest there, you're going to... pardon me, that marsh. That's where you should get your Unrunnable Wolves. Oh, and we have imps for Bratster. So it's going to be a tricky, slow start here for everyone. Will's diving right in to grab the treasure, hope for maybe a weapon or something to get this party started.
1351, it's not a bad amount of gold. It's the kind of gold that probably gets you everything you need to start and then a handful of tents to travel. So hopefully it's not going to be too terribly bad on the drive. And there's another 6,100 gold there.
All right, so a big pile of cash, but not a whole lot yet to spend it on. We'll have to see when they do get back to Canary if there's anything more expensive that's worthwhile there in those shops.
Yeah, so I definitely feel like the Rub is going to get through Garland pretty easily enough, unless there's some bad luck involved. And then the money's going to give them the ability to travel. It looks like Will Cleos is in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, he's going to try and make a run for it, but even if he gets away from this one, he's going to have to go all the way back to Canaria to get that party back up, so...
Oh, and Will takes a wipe early. You don't want to see that. And unfortunately, those were two good piles of cash. You probably go up and get the 6,001 to save yourself the steps, but you know you need that money, and so
we've got a bunch of bare-fisted fighters and Garland with heal 2. So if this Rub can take care of him, that'd be good news. Otherwise, this could be a long fight.
Ooh, and I think Jay Coper has just missed on 2 consecutive Rubs. Bratster's got the Rub that does not work, and the Black Mage dies. Oh, it looks like Bratster's going to take a wipe. It looks like Jay Coper took a wipe as well.
Bratster gets through with the Red Mage wipe. He gets back to Canary with 3 HP. So Bratster out to a little lead.
Bratster did make it. Good job for him. So we got Canoe and Loot. So we know we're going counterclockwise. We're going to go around thanks to some of these clever map edits that have been added that you guys have seen over the last 5 weeks. The Canoe means we're going to go backward. We're going to go counterclockwise to the Dwarf Cave and then to Elfland and around to Crescent Lake. It's a treacherous walk, especially if you don't have the saving items. Thankfully, those that make it out with the money will be able to buy a sufficient number of tents and hopefully make it, because you don't have much that's killing along the way.
No, this is just an ugly start, like just bad magic all the way around, and a lot of these runners have brought a lot of mages. The exception is Falconic. He does have the double fighters, so if he can get some good fighter gear, that'll actually really help him out early game when no one else's spells are doing anything for them.
Yeah, that's gonna be a tough call. It looks like Bratster made it by the skin of his teeth. Jay Coper's saving outside now to make sure he gets this money. And if he wipes, it's not that big of a deal. It looks like Will Cleosis gets the rub off on Garland, so he is through.
So I'm checking in on our handy-dandy cross-stream itinerary, and it looks like Edgeworth, High Spirits, Will Cleosis brought Silverfire, Ikbenmaya, Tilo, and the Hanger Canuck all have the Canoe so far, so quite a few people have made it through already.
Yeah, definitely. So that rub with a good set of luck, that rub is usually not a problem for Garland, and so we know And we can follow this handy dandy tracker off stream. We will certainly do our best to make sure we focus the action on the 4 runners here, but know that there are huge implications for those that are running on the other Randomania family networks. These are not off stream, folks. If you want to watch any of these runners or all of these runners, feel free to tune into the other Randomania networks or click on the multi-Twitch, the multi-stream link that will be posted every so often to get in on the action for all of our runners.
All right, brought her into the Dwarf Cave, picks up a house.
House is not a bad pickup early, depending on the house prices. I don't think we've seen houses yet, because it was soft, pure. Softs and pures are guaranteed, and then we saw tents and cabins, and I think heal potions. So I don't think we've seen the price of houses yet. That could be a big deal. Yes, thank you, Wolfman2000, our restreamer this evening. Thank you. There is an 8 in the middle of your screen, as you can see. That is for the number of slots remaining. Now, we hope that doesn't change for at least another hour, but it's something that you guys can keep up with in regards to how many slots are left based on our runner's current location. And so you can quickly see after about an hour 15 or so from now, the sands of that hourglass dumping out fairly quickly.
Yes, it's, you expect maybe someone particularly fortunate, particularly successful, maybe pulls it off in about an hour 15, an hour 20. That would be early. That'd be an early finish, especially with how rough the beginning of the seed is. But then there'll be a bit of a wave after that. There's always that first trickle. Someone maybe has particularly good luck or just simply plays perfectly. And then after that, there's going to be a bit of a deluge as all of a sudden that clump of people that are neck and neck are all going to finish at about the same time. That's what I predict, a big pile in the middle, right? And it could be seconds that separate 8th from 9th. We don't know yet, and we can't wait to find out.
Yes, and that's going to be pure elation for the 8th place finisher and heartbreak for the 9th place finisher. Certainly as a viewer, we got Fade there at level 4. That's going to be interesting for that white mage that was forced. They're going to get to cast that at level 8. So it's going to be really interesting to see what is at level 2, because I think it's going to be really, really tough to gain levels early on when Rub is your primary spell, and there's not a ton of single target monsters. Maybe the Ogre creep fight if you're lucky to get you a decent amount of experience for being single target. It's going to be interesting to see how that just plays out from here.
Yeah, Black Mage level 4 had Lit 3 and Zap, so some options there as well. White Magic
so
level
we got
3 has
not much. Harm 3 is kind of a maybe.
Yeah,
it really depends on how this unfolds.
And we're about to get another look at Black Magic level 3. I think Will Gliosis will...
Nope, I think he's skipping it.
All right.
I don't blame him. If you don't have the money and you're looking desperately for the floater, I don't blame him for skipping this. If you don't... it depends on how much money you spent on tents. Sometimes the level 3 spells even can be expensive. The only reason that was a pretty tough hit there on Will. The only reason that it would be tough is if you end up not finding the floater early, like it's not at Sages or something like that, and you've got to do a dive and you don't have your level 3 spells. It's just going to be interesting. If we got Falconic picking up his canoe and his loot, hopefully he doesn't feel too far behind. It's certainly an early game. You never know what's going to happen in Temple of Fiends in the very end of the game. Heck, Kraken 1 is no joke either, so you never know where someone's going to suffer a setback.
Yeah, there's lots of time for him to make this come back up. Anyone could wipe in any number of places. Obviously, he's not going to feel too good about how he's got up to a start. We got level 6 Nuke on the Black Magic side, so that's just on the periphery of... You're going to get your first cast at level 20. You might make it to there before you get to Topher, especially in a seed like this, a bit of more of a marathon.
It's in that slot where Red Mage, Red Wizard cannot use it. They only get the top slot of 6, which was Ice 3. So anybody who did not bring a Black Mage automatically cannot use that nuke spell, and then the Black Mages can actually use that at I think 16. So it's not too terribly bad. You might have 2 or 3 charges of that before you hit Temple of Fiends, depending on how early you go. So we got max price gold bracelets as well. You don't want to see that.
Oh yeah, I got my mages mixed up. Okay, we got Cure 4 and Exit at level 6 on the white side. So everyone's got a white mage, so everyone's gonna have access to those when the time comes. So Cure 4 and Exit available at a reasonable level. We'll see how that gets routed in later on in the game.
It looks like we've got the Rod at Sages. That's cool. And then it looks like we've got an Encounter 1 Peds with Mute and heat. So that's not something you want to see at very low levels.
No, it is not. We still don't have a lot of great weapons for those fighters yet, so these peds are not going to go down easy if your mages are muted. And at the levels that you're at, and with the gear we have so far, i.e. no ribbons, those mutes are going to hit a lot of the time.
Yeah, I definitely like the direction of this seed because it's going to provide a challenge for our runners. This is not something you just get to run through and get to the end of. This is something that's going to require some good decision-making, some adaptation. So it's going to be interesting to see the direction that our runners head in, but I think a lot of them are going to end up heading over to Provoca to see what Bicky and the Pirates gives us.
Yeah, and see, of course, what's at the level 2 magic, because quite frankly, that's really what we need now, is something decent that we can cast to get out of this rut here.
Well, the question is going to be, what's decent? We know Nuke's at 6. We know Ice 3's at 6. I think we had Lit 3 at 4, so about the only thing that's going to be solid is Fire 3 at 2, and even then, that's going to make Diving Volcano and stuff like that kind of difficult and unpredictable.
Yeah, not a friendly seed, which is exactly the thing you want in a play-in race like this, where the level of play is so high. When we say, a wild card play-in race for the last spots of the round of 16, you would expect, mediocre showing, but this is a top group of runners of this game, and I would be terrified to play any of them in the round of 16, no matter who comes out of here.
I'd have to echo those sentiments exactly, Nitz.
All right, Will pops into the level 2 white shop. We've got Invis 2. That's a lovely white 2 spell. Not much else to get excited about. Harm 1, no big deal. We've already got a higher level harm.
Yeah. Okay, we got Temper, Quad X, and Ice 2, and Warp. So that's actually... That's rough. That is really rough, because Ice 2 would be a normally usable and good spell, but Warp, Quad X, and Temper far exceed in the end game how that is. Yeah. But you need the Ice 2 now.
yeah, if you've got the luxury of having, say, a black and a red mage, you can do well, because, you probably want Temper on both of them. You may well want Warp on both of them for the extra charges early game, but you could probably get away with... XXXX on one and Ice 2 on the other. Maybe you got choices.
It's tough because Quad X is a great spell. It looks like Brock grabbed Ice 2 on his Black Mage at least. Not a bad call, because you need something that can kind of sweep, especially early. Quad X is an absolutely wonderful spell. It will kill any non-elemental, non-undead under 300 hit points. As we have brought Will Cleos is high-fiving over the bottle there.
Yeah. Perfect. They both show up, take out the pirates, high five, grab the bottle, down to the item shop, and then over to the armor shop. Houses a very reasonable 577.
Definitely. You want to grab a good bit of those houses if you can. It doesn't appear that Brat's in a good position right now, which I'm going to assume the rest of the runners aren't. No one really farmed or nothing, so you're still kind of hanging on that 6,000, 7,000-ish gold we picked out of Temple of Fiends. And so when you get some money, you want to get those houses, because it's going to help you land and burn houses in places without having to worry about the time it takes to use the inn.
So it looks like Edgeworth has the bottle, but no one else off stream seems to yet, so we might have some of the leaders on our stream here. It could be. Could be that the updates are coming in a little bit slower. So there's lots of possibilities, but we're definitely amongst the leaders of the pack right now.
Yeah, definitely. Of the 15 runners, I mean, it's just a solid... This is going to be a solid race, and I'm just looking forward to seeing how this goes, because, see, we're down to one incentivized location right now, and that is Ice Cave. As what we have access to. So we have the Ogre Creep fight that's unrunnable. That's interesting. So we have one really incentivized location right now to check, and that is Ice Cave. And if Ice Cave is not the floater, we're going to be taking a little bit of a treasure hunt looking for that ship.
Will pops up to Matoya's. He's going to be happy he did. He finds a gold bracelet there.
Yeah, it's definitely going to help him early, and he can actually go ahead and sell that katana as well, depending on how the price is randomized. That could give him a good chunk of gold as well.
Yeah, the katana is a high crit sword, but it's ninja only, and he's never going to have a ninja. The only person who will possibly tend is Jay Coper if he gets promoted.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a fun trolley seed for our racers to be challenged, you are definitely putting those bless RNGs in chat for no floater in Ice Cave, no vanilla floater. Axel Higgs has it right. no vanilla floater. Ship in a box is kind of the way we want to go, but certainly it's going to be interesting to see. We've got Brought now executing a pop grind. I don't think that's a terrible play, especially we got Harm 3 at 1, I think. Ooh, there's a Tyro.
Right on. We're going to have an open flame barbecue here on the peninsula. Nice beachside grill. The rubs, ineffective. Maybe not. He's going to have to cancel that.
Yeah, Tyros definitely don't take the tummy rubs, I tell you what.
Will sees the smorgasbord of black magic in Provoca and has to pause, check the white magic, see what he's missing out on. Not too bad with Invis too, but that's something you almost want for your red mage too, so just paralyzed with indecision and choices to make there.
You know, there's a little bit of underratedness as well. The Arub spell is also at level 2. It's a little bit of an underrated spell as it gives you death protection for your entire party. It's really good if you don't find the wall spell and don't find a lot of ribbons. It does work very well in a pinch.
Not just death resistance. It also gives time resistance and status resistance. It provides 3 all at once for your whole party and covers a lot of potential attacks. So if you don't have any ribbons and you don't find any, A-Rub can be really, really useful.
Okay, I'm looking at the sheet, and it looks like we might have a defense sword sighting, so we'll see if our runners pick one of those up. That's a fantastic weapon. Allows you to cast Ruse, which is 80 evasion on the user. Huge for the big melee fights coming up at the end of the game.
Bratster trying to rub out the Zombol here. I don't think that's going to prove to be very effective. And Jake Coper resets out of a river encounter with some Caribes. All the river encounters notoriously bad. Caribes come in big packs, so if they have any of nasty skills, that's usually an immediate reset. And the Hydras just often have ridiculously high attack for this point in the game, so stay off the rivers. Unfortunately, of course, that's part of the early game, is all rivers. Not much you can do there.
Yeah, and also sort of also unfortunate is the lack of AoE spells for the Caribes. Also that the at the low levels they're actually not that bad experience if you can kill them, but that's the challenge.
It's a big if. All right, Will looks like he's about to scale the volcano, and he'll be the first of our on-stream runners here to enter that dungeon. We'll see the armory on the second floor is usually stacked, or at least it can be. Lots of chests there, and we'll see what's in store for Will.
And you can see Jake Hooper is running one of our flags. If you get plugged into FinalFantasyRandomizer.com, you will see one of our flags is called the Palette Shuffle. It actually literally swaps palettes from different monsters, and so it's not actually a randomized coloring, but rather that's a palette that belongs to another monster. And so it's kind of a neat little feature. FinalFantasyRandomizer.com, if you are interested in this game at all, that is certainly where you can go to get everything taken care of. On there is also going to be a link to our Discord channel. We will also have it in chat from time to time. We certainly want to invite you guys to join us. If you like what you see, feel free to come aboard and get plugged into our humble little game here. It's definitely been a lot of fun, and it's definitely breathed life back into a great old classic.
All right, Jake Coper has taken care of the pirates. Got one to bring back. He's finishing up in Provoca.
There's our defense sword in the armory, so looks like all of our runners should go and pick that up. That's the solid sighting. It's not a whole lot of crit, but it's a decent melee weapon that casts Ruse on the user, allows you to give high evasion. Definitely a great find for anybody running a fighter, which is everybody.
Yeah, we were talking about Invis 2. So Invis 2 gives 20 evasion to everyone in your party, and Ruse gives 40 to the caster. So
that's what it is. I got my numbers mixed up. As Will Cleosis has also found the Mass Moon.
Yeah.
So we've got a Mass Moon sighting. If you guys are Team Mass Moon, you guys are excited to see that weapon right there.
And there's the first drops of convenience that have fallen on these runners so far. Everything's been pretty ugly until then, but the Mass Moon is really going to help carve a path through this early game.
Definitely is going to do that, and it makes you wonder what kind of decisions our runners are going to make going forward. Now that they have that Mass Moon and they have Temper at level 2, are they going to go ahead and take the carry dive, or are they going to get a handful of levels here in the armory and then maybe move on to other adventures? We're still looking for that floater. And our runners have Ice Cave to check, but it's very rarely ever a good idea to check the Ice Cave at such a low level. So it's going to be interesting to see how our runners play out the next, 5 or 10 minutes or so.
From a quick check, looks like just about everyone running has the canoe rod in the bottle. With a couple small exceptions, but no one has anything else, so a huge pack of runners, all roughly equal here.
I'm just sitting here hoping that it's not a vanilla floater, because that just opens up so many questions. I've been waiting for a Sarda floater since the beginning of the tournament, and I don't think I've seen it yet. I think we came close to seeing it twice, but I don't think I've seen a Sarda floater yet.
Question from chat, and maybe you can field this one for Orlando. What's the deal with the team for the Massa and against it, and versus the Vorpal, and what's going on there?
Oh yeah, if somebody's got the link to our straw poll, we have some straw polls for what the ideal weapon is in the game. And so there are plenty of people on Team Masamune as the best weapon in the game. It is the most versatile. It is the highest damage weapon in the game. Every class can use it. It overall provides a great use for anybody that has it. There are some that are on Team Vorpal. And Team Vorpal is a limited weapon in a handful of hands. And it has the same damage as the Silver Sword. And it happens to have the highest crit rate in the game with the weapon fixes on. But otherwise, it's not really that useful. But you can make your voices known on what you think the best weapon of the game is right there on our straw poll. As well, you get to decide what our mascot is for the Final Fantasy Randomizer tournament, whether you like the Iguana, the Agama, or the Saria. Also, there's one more on there, and that is what would you like to see the winner of this tournament run as a bonus stream for of your choice of class. Last tournament, we ran 4 Thieves. That was kind of a fun experience. So we're going to take 4 Thieves off the table, but now we're going to have 4 of any one of your choice, whether it be White Mage or Black Mage or something silly. Make your voices heard on those straw pools and on our Discord server.
And if you're wondering, so the Vorpal's got high crit, who cares if it's that much worse than the Masamune? Is it ever worthwhile? And the answer is not very often. But
it depends. But
in some crazy, outlandish Final Fantasy Randomizer scenarios only, where an enemy is near the max of the possible amount of Absorb, critical hits, the bonus critical hit damage ignores Absorb. So there may be situations where a Masamune will do less than a Vorpal against a monster with outrageously high Absorb. But it's more about the mysticism than the facts when it comes to people that are on Team Vorpal. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I don't even know how this got started, but some people worship the ground that Vorpal walks on. I don't personally. I've used it. I think it's a very sharp trash can. But otherwise, if I have a better sword, I'm going to use it. As we got brought in the armory now, he's about to pick up his Masamune as he has just picked up his defense sword as well.
And Will Cleosis picked up a fat pile of cash. So that'll help things out when he gets out of this volcano too.
Will has a small problem. He's got a dead party member and less than 10 health potions in the volcano.
Yeah, he's got some warp charges, so he might be able to weasel his way out here after he cleans out the Agama chests here. Silver Axe, nothing too exciting. He's going to take the Agama fight.
Oh, and it just trucks his Black Mage.
Takes him down. He runs away, grabs that last chest. Dragon armor.
Oh, and it's worth it. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a chest that many of our runners are going to skip if they either feel like they're in go mode or otherwise, because it requires an encounter to nick the treasure chest. And so, he looks like he might just be walking this one out. Definitely a huge risk for him. He's
going to have to, because his Black Mage, who was his last warp caster, just got knocked out. Yeah, so he lost his charges of warp when he paid for that dragon armor. He paid the iron price. So he's going to have to jog out of here. He's not going to do anything crazy and go after carry, because that would not work 9 times out of 10. And so he's going to have to walk this out, lose a little bit of time. But probably the safer play if he can make it.
Yeah, and if he doesn't make it out of this, which odds are not in his favor here, but if he makes it out of this, great. But at least he has the knowledge of what's down there and whether or not it's important to go back. Sometimes when you feel like you're in go mode and you just want to shave off every possible second, you will skip that chest the dragon armor was in just for the sake of being able to make it through that much faster. And so he has the knowledge, if he dies here, that the chest itself is the dragon armor, which is, of course, the best knight armor in the game, as he is delicately navigating the lava tiles, trying not to get into an encounter.
You're wondering what he's doing with those lava tiles. They do 1 damage to your party, but you can't get in a random encounter. This is it. He's got to get away from this one. No! Oh, that's harsh. He dies of precious steps away from the entrance. He'll have to do that all over again. He's going to bail.
Yeah, the only thing he has now is the knowledge of what is down there. And so I think that he went in there with, unfortunately, too few health potions. And I don't know what he's really wanting to pull out of this. I think he's got the items necessary. If he just takes a walk, maybe go to Ice Cave. As we see Jay Coper's working on that Ice Cave now, we're going to see here soon what these treasure chests are. They're going to use a little warp trick. It ports you up to...
It's the tail! It's the tail!
That is awesome!
It is not the floater. He's going to think to himself, what next? Well, what does that mean? Swartzon, to explain that. What does that mean that it's not the floater?
Okay, so we have run out of what we call incentivized locations. These are places you can go to get certain key items as per the shuffling of the NPC Shuffle feature that came out in 2.0.0. So normally you would expect certain people to have certain items. You would expect the king to have the bridge. You would expect Sarah to have the loot. We shuffled all of that. Well, we made it down to our last incentivized item within the starting zone, if you will. That covers King and Sarah, that covers Bicky, that covers the Sages, and that covers the Ice Cave. 5 of our 9 incentivized locations are located in this southeast or southwestern continent. And so when we run out of incentivized locations and there's no floater, it means the ship is somewhere on this continent, and our runners need to find the ship and the TNT in order to be able to sail away and check other incentivized locations for the floater. So it means we're going to be digging through a few chests here. So hopefully our runners haven't been skipping chests. We're going to look over at the ship, the sheet, and see if anybody happens to find the ship. It's going to be interesting when somebody finally does.
Yeah, and not just the ship. They're also going to need to find the TNT so that they can pass that to Narek and blow the canal and get to other parts of the world. Because that floater is going to be in an incentivized location for sure. And there's a handful more of those than we haven't seen yet. There's the top of Castle Ordeals, and there is the robot in the waterfall cave called the Cube Robot. And he has an incentivized item. And...
Castle Ordeals? Did you say Castle Ordeals?
Yeah, Castle Ordeals, and Sarda, who is behind the Ruby. So you may also need to get the Ruby to feed the Titan to get back to speak with Sarda, because he also has an incentivized item.
We are also looking for the buyable item as well. Normally in the game, you would go to the caravan and you would buy the bottle for a certain amount of gold, and you would take that bottle to Gaia, free the ferry, get your oxtail, and go to Sea Shrine. Well, that not only has been randomized to a different item that you can have in your inventory, but that has also been shuffled to a different item location. And I think we've seen all the item locations in the southern area. So we really have, I think, 3 item locations left to check. The actual caravan itself, Onrak, and Gaia, which we can't get to until we find the floater. Yeah, if Moist Mogwai, our tracker, much appreciated. It looks like Jay Coper may have just bailed without the tail. Don't blame him for this per se, because the tail is actually one of the not so required items. You can finish the game without the tail, so it's not absolutely vital that one gets the tail, but the tail does allow you to have access to a whole lot of things that one might deem necessary on a dive for chaos.
So Will bails out of Volcano. He's about to find out that the floater isn't here. So that means it's got to be in some other chest. It could still be in the Ice Cave in one of these other chests yet. But you know where it could also be? It could be in the Red Dragon chest. And that's the one chest in Volcano he doesn't know what's in it. So he's about to realize that, oh, please don't tell me it's there.
Oh, I'm suddenly hoping for that. But realistically, it's probably the most trolly location the ship can be is probably either like Marsh Cave or we don't have the rod, right? Do we not?
We do. We do have the rod.
So it could be an no, it can't be an Earth B4. Never mind. You have to have a ship to get there. No. Man, there's so many locations it could be.
How about Crown Locked Marsh?
We don't have the crown, and we ran out of inventory, or we ran out of incentivized. True. So it cannot be crown locked because we cannot get the crown as an incentivized item. Where we're standing. Really
yeah, it could be anywhere in Marsh Cave. And
oh boy,
there's the TNT.
Oh, and if Jake Hoper noped out of that, he's gonna need that.
He'll be back. He'll have to be back.
I think he's got to go back for that tail. I think it's not necessary, but you may as well treat it as required. I think I may have seen a seed or two be completed without the tail, but you just get so much value out of that tail with being able to equip Opal Armor or Dragon Armor, Aegis Shield, or get those spells that you could use that help you out, like on your Knight, on your Ninja, what have you. I think there's just too much value in cashing that tail. I expect Jake Hoper to go back for it.
Yeah, if it hasn't dawned on him yet that he's going to have to find the ship and the TNT in treasures here, then it will soon. So right now the runners are all in two camps. There are the ones that don't know that they have to check all the chests to find the ship and the TNT, and there are the ones who do. And Will is an example of one who does. He's checked all the incentive chests. He's had a rough wipe that maybe he thinks cost him some time, but in reality, he's got the important knowledge. He also knows that the volcano is mostly empty, so he can make sure to check other places before he goes back for that lone chest.
Boy, and that's a chest that a lot of our runners will skip because it requires 3 separate initiated encounters to get down to the Red Dragon chest, 2 Agama fights and a Red Dragon fight. He finds an Ice Sword. It's not a bad fight here. We'll actually see what he does. With that Mass Immune, I almost would like to see him. I would have liked to have seen him do an eye grind right there. You've got Massa. Get to like level 14 or 15. Use your warp spell to go back a floor and walk that out. I almost would have liked to have seen him do that there. That would probably have given him an advantage that probably only a handful of our runners will probably do. But you're starving for levels to cast the good spells. And so I think this the one chance you have to get a bunch of good, relatively free levels. And you can take that to 12 to 14, maybe. I think I would have liked to have seen that in a seed this challenging.
We've got dreams in chat for Ruby Locked Floater and a Ruby and Crown Locked Marsh, but I don't think we're going to be able to get something like that because, as Forzando pointed out, there are no incentive chests to get that crown from before we would need to have that Ruby.
Well, I mean, it ultimately depends.
Yeah, you're right. It could absolutely be that the cube robot, who we can get to if we find the ship in the canal, may have, the crown. And that might set things off that would eventually yield our way to Sarda to get the floater. This could be about maximum trolleys. So you were saying earlier about SARNG being a bit of a letdown. What do you think now?
I'm kind of liking this. I'm kind of liking this. Will's going back into the ice cave. I almost wonder if he wanted the security of getting the TNT in the tail. And I think now maybe he's going for that eye grind. The eye grind or the white D chest? Because I thought he might have missed that, actually. Oh, that would not be good.
Yeah, I think he missed those two, or maybe he was playing it safe and intentionally avoided them. But now that he got out of there with everything else, he can be a little risky, and if he dies on the way, he hasn't lost too much.
Oh, Nits, look at the locations. Look at the dock. The ship has been spotted. We will save you the spoiler for when it is found, but the ship has been located.
Oh no! Oh no! Well, we'll just pretend I didn't read that, because it's far more exciting to keep the people guessing for now.
Yeah. Oh, and unfortunately, Jake Hoper is really... I think Jake Hoper's scouting at this point, because Jake Hoper knows he needs the ship as well.
And Brodster has got by the Frosties, and he has discovered that there's not too much there. Some cash, possibly heel helmet.
Oh, this is great.
So Jay Coper's out of the volcano too.
He took I think he was scouting because he knows he's looking for that ship, and he took a wipe in that 5 chest room where the Grey Worm trap tile is. That's where he took the wipe, was the Grey Worm trap tile. So he doesn't been through the entirety of Volcano yet either.
So we know where the ship is, which means we know who has it. And if you want to go look for yourself, you can check out Randomania 4, because Edge Figaro has the ship and the TNT. And those commentators may be mentioning it, but we're not going to spoil it for you just yet. So if you want to know, you can stick around with us.
Yes, Edge Figaro's my boy. I hope he does well in this race. Looks like he's off to a fantastic start right now, though. So yeah, I do, like I said, I do wonder what Will's doing here. I hope he's going back for the eye grind, because he really, I think, had a great opportunity to do it. As we've got Broadster picking up his TNT now. And I think Brot did the warp trick as well. So Brot should know, if you cast warp, it takes you back to the last tile you were standing on the last floor. So that's how our runners are able to check the incentivized chest without pouring through the entirety of the ice cave, getting down to that point. And so our runners can know very early on in the ice cave that the tail is the incentivized item. And so we have unrunnable red bones. That's kind of rough.
So while our on-stream runners here are furiously hunting for gear, one of the things that's interesting is we know that Edge Figaro's off to the races. He's got the ship. Nobody else does. He's found it in this, mad treasure hunt. And he's off to now, presumably, going to be a bit of a lead while everyone else doesn't have it yet, and he can take advantage of that. If it were a one-on-one race, that might be a winning advantage. You carve out a 10, 15-minute lead, you can maybe cruise to victory with some confidence, a little bit of room to spare. This is a 15-person race, and the top 8 win. So if he wins far out by a half an hour, it really doesn't matter. It really changes the strategy when you don't have to win. You just have to finish in the top half. If you were one of these 15, and I bet you're lucky that you weren't, how would you adapt your one-on-one strategy to a race like this?
Well, it's really tough, because you know that you want to do well, you want to play your game, you know what your personal best is, you know kind of how you run on average. If you are a runner who has a fairly solid average, perhaps in your mind you just play your game. If you have a hiccup, just play your game. We know we've seen a couple of wipes here already. Just keep your nose down, play your game. You know how it goes top to bottom. If you're kind of a newer player or one looking to get their edge, if you will, maybe you take a risk or two here and there. But this race top down has been pretty solid, and I know a lot of runners, if they just keep their nose down and play their game, they will ultimately do well. It's not necessarily necessary to take some of the hugest risks. I don't mind this eye grind by Broadster for this exact reason. You've got the mass immune. Take those one-shot kills, get a couple of levels in some magic spells that you desperately need, and come back and re-examine Volcano at 15, 14, 15, what have you. I don't think a grind like this is going to set you back so far that you would fall out of the top 8, and it would be advantageous to probably do this, set yourself up for future dungeons.
Yeah, I guess the message that, as I understand it, is you can be a little more conservative than usual. You can take a grind that takes, 2 or 3 minutes, because you're not worried about losing by 2 or 3 minutes. You're worrying about finishing in the bottom half. And by doing stuff like this, you can create a scenario where you've got a bit more of a cushion in Topher, and heaven only knows that is the kind of thing you want. Now, Will finishes the ice cave, which he full cleared, but he looks like he's sailed right past Volcano, because in his mind he's like, well, it's 15 chests in Marsh Cave, and there's only 1 in Volcano, so I guess it's time to go to Marsh, and this could really be a problem for him.
Yeah, and this is unfortunately where runners can get out of their comfort zone. Mike Tyson has always said everyone has a game plan until you get punched in the mouth. And I think that our runners have been pretty well punched in the mouth by this ZaRNG seed here. It's definitely given them some ugly starts early. It's definitely knocked some of our runners outside of their comfort zone a little bit. It's the response to that I think is going to matter. Yes, I think the conservative play is going to help you in the long run, but definitely you have to make sure that you're not taking too many adverse risks.
I might be wrong. Will might have just been popping in here for some supplies before going to check the red D chest. Like, he knows the rest of the dungeon, so he could really just sprint down to the bottom and check that one chest, and possibly kill Carrie while he's there if he thinks his party's strong enough now, which, it may be. It's a much stronger party than the one that wiped a few minutes ago.
Yeah, and the biggest mistake I think that he made is he went down into that deep dive volcano with very few heal potions, and so the lava just eats you up when you do that. And so, unfortunately, it's just something that you gotta just respond to. Maybe when you prepare, you probably just put that in the back of your mind for the next time you run. Be like, okay, don't dive volcano without at least X number of heal potions, because it does drain on you a little bit, especially if you want to do that deep dive.
All right, so it looks like our tracker indicates, and I can't confirm this, but it has popped up on the sheet that Edgeworth has lit the Earth Orb, so he must have the ship, but it doesn't say that he does, or the TNT, but that could just be some, slight accounting inaccuracies. He may be in the lead with the Earth Orb lit.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing to light the Earth Orb, having not had the Fire Orb lit. We have Edge Figaro with his Fire Orb lit, so something he did worked out for him. That he was able to take out Carry with just the Mass Immune and maybe what he has at his disposal. Looks like Brat's doing that Pede grind that befouled him earlier. Or he's just burning off encounters, one of the two. I think Will Cleosis is looking for the buyable item, hoping it's something or somewhere that he missed. We are... where are we at? We are at the 41-minute mark, and no one has found the floater yet. So that is an interesting. That's just an interesting turn of events here. That we're not getting to the skies early in this game.
Looks like Jay Coper's thrown it back and has entered the Marsh Cave. This is usually the last-ditch play at this point. You don't go there until you've checked everything else. But we know that he hasn't, because he doesn't have the ship, and he might have found it in Volcano if he looked hard enough.
Yeah, and this is definitely something that perhaps, if you feel like you're, and I'm certainly not trying to speak ill, but if you think in your mind you're on the outside 8 going into this race, you might need to take some sort of risk that puts you on the inside. That perhaps he finds something in here that ends up pushing him over the top. That he thinks if he finds the ship here, that that will immediately vault him into the top 8 if he can just finish strong. And so we'll see what he comes out with, because if he doesn't come out with the ship, he might come out with something equal, or not equally valuable, but, valuable towards the end, like a ribbon, Aegis Shield, or otherwise.
Yeah, and this cave, for all its treachery, loses a lot of its teeth when you have warp. You can, clear the top half, warp out, and then you can jog down to the bottom, and if you can find all the chests, you can just warp yourself out. So it only takes a couple of warps to get out. 3 warps, he's definitely got that many charges. He should have houses to restore in between, so it's not as awful as it can be if you have to walk it out.
In some cases, levels also help. If you've been somewhere where you've been gaining levels or otherwise, that can help your survivability. We know that the only Cobras that are in this dungeon are on trap tiles. Cobras had Fire 3, so you want to stay away from those. But he does not have the Mystic Key, so we're not going to see any Cobras. Other than that, we really don't exactly know what's down here, so it's probably not a terrible play because of his levels, but we got unrunnable gargoyles here, so it's kind of slowing him down a little bit to try and collect all these chests.
Brat and Falconic high-fiving as they pillage the volcano together. It's interesting, Falconic, we thought he was so far behind earlier when he kept wiping on Garland, but is basically identical to Brat, except for that eye grind that's given Brat some extra levels. So he's not completely caught up, but in terms of progression he has, and that's something there for him to get back into this race.
Yeah, and like I said, I do like Brat's eye grind, because I think it's going to set him up for mid to late game. That it will allow him to take have an easier path than maybe some of our other runners that just keep pushing through without gaining levels and otherwise.
Yeah, it's so nice if you're just a couple levels over leveled. All of a sudden, the whole game is that much easier, and you can stay a couple levels ahead by taking appropriate grinds instead of risking wipes or having your party constantly getting beaten up, having to heal between battles. Fingers crossed you can run away. If you have those extra levels and it's so much like every battle is just a little bit easier, it can really pay off in time.
Yeah, I expect Brat's Volcano Dive to be pretty easy because of his levels at this point. I expect him to get all the way down to carry and get through carry with almost no problems, provided, you know, we see what carry's spell and skill list includes. But having a good level fighter with a mass immune, carry should be cleaved in half pretty easily, and that's something that Will Cleosis and even, I think, Jay Coper struggled in their Volcano Dives, where I don't expect Bratster to.
All right, so accounting error cleaned up. Edgeworth hadn't defeated the Earth Orb. In fact, he had defeated the Fire Orb, so he still doesn't have the ship, though. It looks like he may have skipped the Red D chest, unless that's an error. But in any event, Ice Blue definitely does, High Spirits does, Edge Figaro does, and a few people have defeated Carry, but that's where we are. Still a pretty close race.
It looks like we have some interesting things going on here. Just looking at our locations guide, not trying to reveal any spoilers, but we're definitely finding stuff late that aren't really going to matter a whole lot, and I think it's going to disappoint our runners a little bit here and there. But yeah, it appears we do not have a floater sighting yet, which increases my desire to see it at Sarda.
It's got to be somewhere. I apologize if you read between the lines. I may have spoiled the location of the ship. But
now that you've told them.
Well, now they have to remember what I just said if they didn't catch it the first time. No, it's a delicate balance when you've got so many races going on. Some people are going to be watching all of them, some people just a couple. So we were asked to actually be as forthright as we could with regards to everything to keep the race, keep everybody up to date. But sometimes it's fun to learn things for ourselves.
Definitely, and it's the sort of thing that if it was just these 4 runners, we would focus the action here. But because we're running 15 runners deep, it has implications for how our runners. Not to our runners don't know what's going on, but to the viewers, you guys, if you have a particular racer that you're cheering for or otherwise, it's good to know where they stand. You don't want to just get to the end of the race and go, oh, how did they do? So we're trying our best to make sure that we're as up to date and as forthright as possible here. So we got Jay Coper digging through the marsh cave. There's a ribbon. That's going to be a little bit of an advantage for him.
Imagine he finds another one. Then all of a sudden it's completely flipped upside down and this becomes a brilliant play. That's almost too much to hope for, but here he goes with the wizard chest.
Wizard's not playing around. High attack rating, just absolutely whacking that thief pretty badly. Looks like it was silver helmet in that chest. So unfortunately, other than the ribbon, which is kind of a big pickup, otherwise a little bit of a bust for Jay Coper. Nothing should be taken for granted at this point. Our runners should probably know the floater is not in the ice cave, so at this point, checking chests is paramount. Sometimes that's why checking incentive locations kind of beats checking Volcano under these flag sets, because you can gain that knowledge. What a lot of our runners will do is a lot of our runners will run the armory of Volcano, get the treasures, get the money, get the levels, dip out and go ice cave and check that incentivized chest, because if that's not the floater, then our runners need to respond and react accordingly. And so I think that's where Will Cleosis is back here, sort of re-diving the Volcano. Little bit of a better position here.
There it is. Falconic's got the ship from the Red D chest. I apologize for letting the cat out of the bag earlier. That was inadvertent, but it's all in the open now, as Bratster has it as well. So that's just one of those last chests. It's so inconvenient to go get. It's got 3 trap tiles you have to negotiate, but 2 of our runners have just picked it up, and it looks like Will too, because he's back in Volcano now. He thought maybe about Marsh Cave, but he thought better of it, and he's made the right play here.
Yeah, I think maybe he realized he didn't check that Red D chest, and he went, what if? Jay Coper, unfortunately, did not make it all the way down, so he not only didn't check the Red D chest, but he actually didn't check probably 1, 2, 3, 4 other... 4, 6, 8 other chests in Volcano. So unfortunately, the decision for him to dive Marsh was probably purely on the gamble, and unfortunately it's not going to pay off for him. Will at least is going to kick himself a little bit, but he's not too terribly far behind on account of doubling back to where he was not too long ago.
We've got simultaneous high five carry fights. Broadster pulls it out slightly ahead of Falconic, which stands to reason. He's got those extra levels. But Falconic obviously has completely overcome his
lands the confuse on carry.
and then immediately decapitates her with an 8-hit 700 damage maximum strike. So she wasn't confused for long.
But she did hit herself in her confusion, so...
And Falconic now also lights his fire orb, has his ship. He should have the TNT as well from the ice cave. He's ready to go hit the open seas now.
Yep, and so now we've got Will Cleosis on encounter 1 of 3 heading down to that red D chest. This is a particularly storied chest here that the Red Dragon guards in a tournament match. I believe it was the fall tournament match. Tristal MTG was facing, I think it was Drumboardist or somebody else, where the floater ended up being in that chest, and Tristal took the red D fight and then forgot to check the chest, whether he immediately menued or something, got down there, forgot to pick up that chest, and turns out it was the floater. Here it turns out to be the ship. So Will at least is not going to feel so bad about this, but I think Jay Coper's going to feel a little more bad.
And Broadster now is at his ship, conveniently parked in Elfland. When you find the ship outside of its usual location, which it usually will be somewhere else now that we have NPC shuffle, it is conveniently placed in the nearest inner sea dock. And the nearest location you can normally put the ship to the volcano is actually a river entrance, but we specifically excluded those just because it seemed kind of off theme and a little weird that the ship would just be bobbing up and down in a river mouth. So it always starts at the nearest inner sea dry dock.
And so Will now picking up his ship. He's got to be just a little bitter, but don't be so bad because it's going to get worse for our runners, hopefully. So he'll have plenty of chances, hopefully, to make up some time and hopefully notch one of those top 8 slots here. And so Will is going to be the 3rd runner on our stream to go up against Carrie. With that Wizard Staff, I believe that he should have. We'll see if we can get Carrie to hit herself in confusion again.
He's not messing around. He's moved his fighter to the back rank. The 2 characters in the back, the 3rd and 4th slots, only receive an 1/8 of the attacks each. The front character gets half of them, and the second character gets a quarter. So by moving in that fighter to the back, he's basically sacrificing everyone else to Carrie, and she is only too happy to oblige. Takes out Olay there in one quick stroke, but that should buy him some extra time to buff up that fighter and take down Carrie.
Boy, Carrie is not playing around here.
But neither is Will Cleosis. 7 hits, 776, carries down, fire orb lit, and Will is out of there. And still amongst the pack leaders, despite his earlier wipe in Volcano, still near the front of this pack.
The question in chat, what is the canal? The canal comes from turning in the TNT to Narek, the fireworks dwarf in the dwarf cave. When you do that in this flag set, you get the canal. The canal is not an item that goes in your inventory, but rather appears as a map change. And so that is what happens, and that's how the canal sort of gets placed.
And it doesn't look much like a canal in NPC Shuffle. It actually takes the form of another bridge. The important thing is it lets you sail that inner sea ship I was talking about out to the open seas. You can sail around the world now. And because of that, you gain access to some new locations. So since we don't have the floater yet and we don't have the airship, we can only sail to docks and dock the ship. And there is one near Melmond. And that's usually the only place you need to go. And there's also one near Crescent Lake, but we've already walked there. But of course, the NPC Shuffle and open progression, more importantly, adds a couple new docks up north, one near Onrak and one near the Mirage Tower. Now, we won't be going near the Mirage Tower because we don't have the chime yet, but it is entirely possible that because we have the canoe and the ship, we can sail up north to Onrak, and we can canoe to the Waterfall Cave, and even more esoterically, we can canoe and hike to the Oasis, because as far as we know, the Oasis vendor still may have a shop item, and he may be sitting on the floater too. And wouldn't that be a treat?
That would be pretty hilarious. We also have one other dungeon to check as well, and that is Castle Ordeals. Normally you can get there by ship, but no one really ever knows that. If you don't play Final Fantasy Randomizer, you can actually dock your ship at any swamp location or any river location. You can get out of your ship and paddle your canoe. And so you can actually sail over to the Castle Ordeal area, park your ship in the river entrance, and sail only a handful of feet over to Castle Ordeals. Normally in the vanilla game, you would just take your floater and park way outside and go on a lengthy walk, but it does open up Castle Ordeals as another incentivized location.
And Falconic's out on the open seas. He's going to walk over to Crescent Lake, maybe pop in and do some shopping. He's, of course, been here before because we got the canoe early, so he was able to get what he needed before. But he might want to stop in for a breather and stock up on supplies before he heads elsewhere. Brotzer's checking out Melman. It appears to have been ravaged by a vampire, and he's going to do the standard technique of heading down towards the Earth Cave. No, he's changed his mind, and he's hopping the ship too.
Yeah, and at this point, unfortunately, there are no incentivized items. And now the ship doesn't count as an incentivized item. That is just something that gets placed by the logic. There are no more incentivized items in loose treasure chests. And so we know that we're trying to hit specific incentive location targets to gain the items that we need to be able to finish the dungeon. So going Earth Cave at this point, while certainly possible, our runners have the rod, they could go down there and kill Lich. Checking treasure chests is a lengthy process that could yield very little throughout. So it's something that our runners will probably skip and come back to at a later time.
Yeah, the smart money is going to do the treasure chest checking in its more dense locations, ideally when you're on your way to a fiend. You could do some of that in Earth Cave, but it's probably not going to pay the same dividends as finding the floater from an incentive location. And your best incentive density right now is where Brotzer is. You can canoe over to the vendor, who may have a shop item. You can go visit the cube robot, who definitely will. And you can pop into Onrak, where there may also be a shop item. So there's a lot of potential here for Brotzer's play to pan out. The other place, of course, is Ordeals, which is definitely going to have something as well.
And it's in the region as well. He just opts to come here first. Onrak does not have our buyable item, so we will be coming back to Onrak at a later day. He's going to go ahead and hit up that waterfall cave. Thanks to Warp, you can get in and out with very little problems, provided that the monsters in the waterfall cave are not too terrible.
Shoutouts to Moist Mogwai. She's our tracker tonight. She's putting out pro rings, $3,700 in Melman. What a steal! They normally cost a fortune in the vanilla game. They're a great item that provides death resistance. Everyone can equip them. 8 absorb, very low evade penalty. The best piece of hand armor generally in the game, with the exception perhaps of the power gauntlet, which can be used to cast Saber on the user, so that you don't have to equip it to get that bonus. You can use it as an item. But if you have a fully kitted out knight, sometimes you'll slip the power gauntlet on there if you already have a ribbon, something like that.
Yeah, because the Pro Ring, I don't know if you mentioned it or not, my apologies, but the Pro Ring also does give you death resistance on top of the 8 absorb, and so that's usually something where if your fighter does not have a ribbon, the Dragon Armor, Aegis Shield, and Pro Ring will cover 6 of the 8 elemental resistances, and so usually you're pretty good off.
All right, looks like Falconic's going to go Ordeal, so we're going to have a pretty good picture of the incentivized items coming up soon. It's pretty much guarantee that either Ordeals, the cube robot, or the caravan vendor has to have our floater. Or possibly not. We could have a crown, we could have a ruby, we could have, it's got to have progression. I apologize.
Yeah, it could be at progression. I'm always looking forward for it to be at Sarda. So
I want it for sale by that Dusty Merchant, because everyone's going to forget about it. Because you're not used, you are not used to sailing to Onrak, canoeing west through the river to cross that treacherous desert and get to that vendor to try and buy a floater. That is not something that I bet any of these forerunners have had to do before. So we'll see if it comes up.
If you are new to Final Fantasy Randomizer, but you are familiar with the base game, you may remember Castle Ordeals as the pillars you just take the southernmost pillar for. Well, thanks to Nits among some of our other great developers, I don't know if you designed this one specifically or if this was in Troper Zero, but the Castle Ordeals pillars are now officially random, and so it gives a little bit of fits for some of our runners sometimes. As we find Brotzer's got the bridge in Waterfall Cave, and we'll see what the Waterfall robot has. It's the cube.
Well, that is traditional. The waterfall
robot. Is this
robot.
even shuffled?
Yeah. Classic question. Is it even shuffled? I would say this one's been shuffled pretty good, but you know, sometimes the first card on the deck is the ace of spades, even after you shuffle. It's going to happen.
So Jake Hoper now up against Carey. He's got his ship. He's got to feel a little bad, but realistically, he's not too terribly far off. He's got to do a little bit of running around, get that TNT turned in, get out to the overworld, and then figure out what direction that he wants to go to next, as we've got Falconic looting the treasure chests after getting past the pillar maze. We will see what our incentivized item here is. So we've got a white shirt pickup. That is not bad. That casts the Invis 2 spell for free. It also gives resistances for the white wizard when they eventually get their class change. And we have the floater. My heart breaks because now the world opens up. I was hoping to hold off just a little longer.
Had to be there eventually. Had to come up eventually. But this is going to blow the doors wide off now, as we can get the airship, and we can really begin a tour de force here.
All right, so as let's do a little bit of a recap at the 1 hour mark. This is the play-in race for the Final Fantasy Randomizer Spring Tournament. 8 of our 46 runners finished with a record of 4-1 or greater. 15 of our runners finished with a record of 3-2. That is what you see here. This is 4 of our 15 across all 4 of Randomania's networks. The top 8 qualify for the bracket stage of the playoffs. This is sort of a tiebreaker race, if you will, in which the top 8 finishers will then move on to the bracket stages and face somebody who has already qualified. So it's out of the fire and out of the frying pan into the fire for our runners here, as they just qualify by the skin of their teeth to get somebody who's pretty strong in the bracket stages. So our item distribution, we had the king with the canoe and princess with the loot, kind of vanilla. We had Bicky with the bottle. The sages had the rod. We have on our screen here the waterfall robot had the cube. Castle Deal's chest had the floater. The ice cave incentivized item was the tail. We were a ship required seed, in which the ship was behind the red D chest in the volcano, with the TNT being in the Frostwolf not in the guarded chest, but in the room with the Frostwolf trap tile in ice cave. And then I think that's about it. We found a ribbon in Marsh Cave, thanks to Jay Coper. And yeah, so that's kind of where we stand. We're at the 101 mark, and no one's finished yet. So we will see what happens in the next 20 minutes. It'll be very interesting.
It looks like some of the leaders of the pack are on Randomania. Edgeworth, Ice Blue, High Spirits, all doing quite well. Edge Figaro on Randomania 4 also near the front of the pack right now. Our runners on stream are definitely right in the middle, which is, as far as excitement goes, exactly where you want to be. So I'm not going anywhere. And if you want to see exactly how it comes down to the wire, this might be the best channel for you.
Definitely. And if you want to watch any of the other action, Norastra has posted the multi-stream link. It will link you to all 4 channels of Randomania to watch it runs. Watch all 15 runners and just soak it all in right now, because this has been a fairly exciting ZaRNG seed right here. A troubled start with a poor spell list and a ship required seed in the red D chest. It's only a handful of points greater than some of the more trolly seeds that we've seen. I have certainly enjoyed the action tonight.
All right, so as our runners get their hands on the floater, get their hands on the airship, we're going to start to see the traditional, gallivant around the world and pick up all the cardia items and get ready to really take on those fiend dungeons, because after that it just becomes sort of what order do I want to tackle this? Where is my chest density? What can I get done the fastest? And in a unique set of circumstances like this, there are so many strategies that can help you get into those top 8. We'll see how it shakes out. So looks like Falconic's been touring Cardia. So far, not too much to mention, but he is going to go get promoted now.
As we've got Broadster picking up his floater, and also Nightwind's Song pointing out in chat, the slab is actually the Bible item at the caravan. So you got your wish, Nitz.
Yeah, I saw Broadster canoe over and pick that up earlier. So it's pretty awesome that you actually had to canoe and then, portage and run through the desert to get there. Of course, you could get the floater first and just simply fly over, and some people will, but I love it. west through that narrow passage to head up to get the bottle, which is actually the slab from that dusty vendor in an oasis.
So we have our crown on Falconic's side, and absolutely, we made the mention earlier, Falconic had a little bit of a hiccup start where we had just the rub spell for Garland, and Falconic was the last one on our stream to finish the Garland fight and move on. And now amongst our runners, he is in the lead. So definitely don't let any sort of early setback potentially make you feel like you're behind. Sometimes you will, but don't let that get you out of your rhythm. Falconic has definitely taken a lead amongst our runners. We'll see where he can slot, if he can finish Temple of Fiends, because certainly the great Temple of Fiends can be known as the great equalizer. So no matter how big of a lead, how much of a lead you have forged, sometimes Temple of Fiends is more than willing to knock you down a couple of pegs.
And Will Cleosis takes to the air. The first thing he's going to do is pop in and visit our old friend Sarda, see what the old sage has in store. And there's that crown that Falconic picked up just a moment ago. So we can set the wheels in motion now, and at the runner's convenience, they can complete the crown quest. They need to do that to get to the Mystic Key, because one of the things that the Final Fantasy Randomizer community discovered is that there are tons of locked doors in the Temple of Fiends Revisited. In the vanilla game, you can't get there without the Mystic Key, so you might go your whole life without ever knowing. But since creating FFR and being able to get there without the key, we've discovered that like the bottom half of the doors in that dungeon are almost all locked.
And so now we've got Will Cleosis hitting up the Titan's Tunnel, picking up not so much for his efforts, but he's going to be taking to the skies, and everything is going to be good for them there. We've got Jake Hoper hitting the ice cave back up to get that tail. He's probably going to do that full explore since he now knows he has the ship, and he needs the TNT, and this is the last place he has to check, which I don't know if he made it down to the Frostwolf room to know that TNT is there, or if he wiped at some point earlier, but we'll see him down there. He will get his TNT at some point, hopefully, and get a move on here, as we've got Will heading for the caravan. He is going to find the slab as a viable item here. Not bad for our runners, considering our runners are probably so full of gold right now that a little 37.5 is a drop in the bucket.
He just reaches into his wallet, pulls out 37,500 gold, hands it to that caravan vendor, walks away with his slab, looks back, and there's just a dusty cloud. The vendor's gone.
I like to think the way the game works that our light warriors have a bag of holding, because where else are you going to keep that canoe that you could just take in and out wherever you go? Where else are you going to keep 37,500 gold?
Digital transactions, like a credit card, maybe.
37,500 bitcoins.
Yeah, you're going to have to sit on that, because once you get out of that time loop, it's going to be worth big money. Will Cleosis now doing his little cardia cleanup here. He's going to loot this place. He just finished his class promotion, so he shuffled over some of his good gear, and that looks like the common theme. With all the spellcasters and with all the pretty good promotion gear, you're going to see that class change come into play for everyone, I think.
Definitely, and it looks like, and I'm looking over at our tracking sheet, and it looks like the only ribbon that has been found in this game so far is the one Jay Coper found for diving the Marsh Cave. So it's going to be interesting to see what our runners end up finding. We're doing a lot of errand running. It's one of the first things you do when you find the floater. You're kind of hitting some errands. If you found your crown, you go through the crown chain quests, you pick up your Mystic Key. There are a ton of chests to check between here and Cardia Islands. There's the Power Gauntlet in the Dwarf Cave there. Falconic's going to pick that up. He's definitely going to be happy to see that. Though I'd argue, I guess it's a little less necessary. Temper was at 2 or 3. Temper's at 2, Fast is at 3. So it's probably debatable if Power Gauntlet's good at this point. Certainly, if you have to, single man mode chaos, you want to have it. But if you want to go with your party intact, Power Gauntlet may be a little less necessary in this game.
Jay Coper picks up his TNT. We haven't talked about him much because he has fallen towards the back of the pack. But if you think he's out of this race, you can think again. The first thing that makes me think he's got a shot here is that ribbon. The second thing is that we haven't seen the back half of this game at all. And the great equalizer, Topher, is still upon us. If it's as trolly as the first half of this game has been, you could be 15 minutes behind and get it all back on parties wiping and Topher at the end.
Yeah, question in chat. So we all have 2 people that have ribbons. I believe that's correct. As I'm looking over the tracking sheet, it looks like Tilo has also been to the Marsh Cave. As our tracker, our big location tracker tells us where items are located as they're found. So far, we only have 1 ribbon in the mass tracking sheet, and that covers every racer. So it looks like Tilo probably did end up in the Marsh Cave. That is how he got that 1 ribbon. And it could be inconsequential. It could be that the other 2 ribbons are in the Sky Castle or Sea Shrine. It also could be that they could be in Mermaids, which gets skipped a lot.
Yeah, we may never know, or we may find them right away. So we'll stay tuned. Will's going to take care of business here and return the crown to its rightful owner, the kindly old king of the Northwest Castle, only to discover he has been deceived. It was the evil Dark Elf Astos all along. But he sets things straight, quickly slays Astos, and he'll be off with the crystal to give back to Montoya.
So my question for you is Sarda a wizard, or is he simply an old man? Because he does say, doesn't he say a wizard or wizards took his crown?
Wait, are we talking about Sarda or...
Yeah,
Astos?
Sarda, because Sarda had the crown. Is Sarda a wizard?
Sarda is totally not a wizard. If he was a wizard, he'd be helping a little bit more. Although, you know, in the vanilla game, he hands you like a magic rod. So that's got a bit of like... That screams wizard. I don't know. You know what? I don't know. I got to sit down and think about this a bit more.
So we've got while you're thinking about that, we got Broadster in the Earth Cave. I don't mind this dive at all, especially if you come here to translate your slab, push right through, because at this point we know where all the incentivized locations are. The only downside for Broad, of course, is that he doesn't have a ribbon yet. Otherwise, we've got Mass Immune, we've got Dragon Armor. If you've cashed in your tail, you're in a pretty good, you got White Shirt, you're in a pretty good position gear-wise. And so you got to feel like maybe you want to know where those ribbons are, because I don't know that we've seen the wall spell yet.
Broadster takes a couple chests that are out of the way and then blows by the one with the earth trap tile. So he's being sort of judicious in which chests he's checking. He's certainly not full go mode, but he's certainly not skipping everything either. So we'll see what he hits and what he misses when other people come through.
It's tough because one of our 4-in-1 runners, Split Punch, did something on stream one day that made everybody go, hey, maybe I need to do that. And that was take that earth trap tile. But see, he went and he took that earth trap tile with the Mass Immune, went in, got turn order, took him out probably as fast as it would take to run from the fight, and managed to pick up, I think it was a ribbon or something important. And so all of us were sitting there going, is that something we should be doing? And so some of our runners now will take that earth tile just on the off chance that it could have something behind it. And it's a quick encounter if you have Mass Immune. It's usually a 1 round or less encounter. So it's going to be interesting to see which runners take it, which runners don't. Does it have anything? It usually doesn't, but that one time...
Well, Brat skips all of the chests on Earth B4, and there's quite a few. There's 5 in the one room, I think, and 3 in the other. So and they're actually pretty packed in. So I'm almost surprised. With Warp, you can check that top room, warp back. It doesn't take that long, but he says no thank you. He's going straight for Lich.
Yeah, I guess that's tough, because literally right now the only thing you are looking for is ribbons. And so... because you're not looking for another set of armor, you're not looking for any more weapons. You don't really need anything other than ribbons. So it's like thinking about whether or not a ribbon would be in that upper room. You know, I don't know. I'd probably check it, but if you feel like you need to not check it to be in the top 8, that could be what's in Broster's mind at the moment.
Broster getting close to landing the Earth Orb. Ice Blue has done that on Randomania and Edge Figaro on Randomania 4. But that's it. No one's lit anything beyond that. We do know that Ice, High Spirits, Falcona's got the Power Bonk, so lots of people have that too.
Yeah, that's going to come kind of as a consequence of checking your Dwarf Cave chests, especially if people are still looking for ribbons. That's one that I think many, if not most, of our runners are going to stumble upon, as we've got Falconic now picking up his cube from the Waterfall Cave. I'd like to see our runners route Mirage Sky first. We'll see what happens, but I'd like to see our runners route Mirage Sky first. You've got your translated slab, you've got your bottle, you now have your cube, because you were out looking. You know, some of them have them. Falconic just picked up his cube, so perhaps not. But for people who went and got their slab as the Bible item and the cube, looking for the floater. Perhaps I'd like to see Mirage Sky come first, because then you can sort of do all of your errands and your errand running as part of that process where you go and you turn in your bottle, get your Ox Seal, you turn in your translated slab, you get your time, and then you bop right over to Mirage and Sky and take care of Tiamat while you're there. It's a good number of levels you gain out of that. It's a good number of chests to check if you're still looking for those ribbons. And overall, it's a pretty good play.
You can make a pit stop in Gaia if you want to grab the Ox Seal while you're up there. It's a natural. Falconic's already got his Ox Seal because he's already in the sky. Looks like he's gonna maybe head to the right and go visit those mermaids, but not if those lobsters have anything to say about it. So postpone that.
Yeah, lobsters are like land scorpions, and they are just murderous from time to time, and so they are proving to be no slouches here as well. As we've got Will Cleosis now picking up his power gauntlet, he's gonna be happy enough to see that as well.
Brock grabs Life and Cure 4. Great spells, both of them. And that's something that everyone's going to get around to doing eventually. You're not going to skip on Cure 4 in a race like this, I don't think. And grabbing Life at the same time is just natural. Really makes your party that much more survivable. But before getting that Life spell, if someone dies, you have to go back to a clinic. And that's like super inconvenient. So getting that out of the way is just something nice to do.
Definitely. And with Brot having a bunch of good levels, he'll actually be able to start casting some level 6 spells here soon. And he still has some of the higher experience density dungeons to go through. So I actually expect Broster to hit almost 22 even before taking on Temple of Fiends Revisited. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens from this point.
So we saw Brot earlier do a bit of an eye grind, picked up a few levels. You liked that play at the time. He's about to get to another popular trap tile grind spot, the Blue Dragon on the 3rd floor of Mirage. How do you feel if the Blue Dragon's pretty squishy for another couple levels? Do you like that too?
No, I don't particularly like it. You don't want to leave the dungeon after you do the Blue Dragon grind, and you don't want to die if you were unfortunately faced with Warmech on the Bridge of Destiny. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place trying to get those levels. If you're trying to get those levels on the Blue Dragon, unfortunately, I think maybe your game is kind of already sunk. So hopefully our runners will be able to gain a few levels, maybe checking the Mirage Tower chest or something like that. There's a lot of good experience-dense fights, but that Blue Dragon chest, like I said, you don't want to leave after the grind is over because you got to press on, and you don't want to die to Warmech. So it's a tough call. You know, whoever does it here would not be the first to do it. It's certainly not unheard of. If he's very squishy, he does give a fairly large amount of experience. But I think that at this point, you're probably going to experience it more as a setback than a benefit.
Yeah, there's lots of alternatives that you might run into. Like, you might fight some eyes, you might find a pile of vampires, and all of those things can be pretty good experience too, without having to worry about wasting time, you know, back and forth on the trap tile. So I see. I guess the real problem from your perspective is just the fact that it's sort of in the middle of the dungeon and things could get ugly after it, and it would be a huge waste of time. That's really the big problem, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm certainly not. I can't mention that without at least giving Ice a little bit of recognition. If you don't have Warp or Exit on that eye grind, it also makes that a bit tough because you have to walk that grind all the way out. And sometimes the Ice Cave monsters are pretty tricky with the spells and skill lists that they have and stuff like that. So the eye grind is not always the right answer, but sometimes the eye can definitely give you a couple of levels just really, really easily. It's a really good jump from 9 to 12. You really only need to take maybe 4 or 5 fights there to get there. So it's definitely something that's worthwhile for shorter periods of time.
Broadster on the 1st floor Mirage picks up some good stuff. He just picked up some Zeus gauntlets. He can use that to cast Lit 2. And he picked up a black shirt, which he is tossed on his black wizard. The black shirt has the same armor as the gold bracelet he was wearing, but it does come with ice resist and time resist. And short of a ribbon, that's the only way your black wizard's going to get either of those two things. There's not a whole lot of time spells, really just zap out there, and one that can stun you, but it's good to have, because if you do find a ribbon, you're not going to give it to that black wizard anyway. So it's a good item to find. And there's the vampires we were just talking about, 1233 EXP. So Brot's getting some good luck here in Mirage, and he's going to get that experience without wasting any time. He now enters the so-called less than greater than room, because the chests are arranged a bit like the less than and greater than symbols. And it's a nice room full of 10 chests. We'll see what's in this little trove here. Falconic's doing a bit of a full clear here of the Sea Shrine. There's a lot of trap tiles on these chests that make checking them meticulous and time-consuming, and Sharks often extremely deadly. They don't look too bad this time, weren't able to inflict much damage on us tonight. And now the Sharknado room, another trap tile. There's a shark and occasionally Waters. We'll see if he steps on it. He does. 2 Sharks. That's ugly. They are runnable, and they're just not hitting very hard this seed, so he obviously knows that by now, and so he's not really afraid of them. He's going to have to trigger it twice. It's a commonly skipped chest, but no one's taking anything for granted anymore after the way we've seen this seed go, so Falconic clears that out, and now he's down to the Kraken floor. Kraken 1. Right. Yeah, Falconic's just cleared out everything on the way to Kraken 1, who is, of course, we know, one of the really ugly initial Fiend fights. Just about as powerful as anything you face up to this point, and can easily one-shot even strong party members, depending on how he's rolled.
Yeah, because it's a combination of being able to hit more times than some of the other Fiends. So we saw Carry hit like up to 6. That's pretty high. Kraken can roll up to 8, probably 1 for each tentacle, and high attack power. So it makes Kraken a particularly nasty foe. Even his first appearance here in the Sea Shrine, it can be a little rough.
And another thing that Falconic found while clearing out sea was a ribbon, and that might be one that people don't often find. It was a bit out of the way, I believe. I don't think it was in Mermaids, but honestly, I can't remember now. I missed it looking at Broadster stream at the time.
Well, it can be a pretty big deal, because Sea Shrine can get you some levels if you get some of the right encounters. Gershark, double Gershark. The Gershark Big Eye fight is huge for experience gain. So there's definitely some levels that you gain. They come with a little bit of risk that with Sahag, the Red Sahag fight is always unrunnable and is not worth a whole lot of experience. So the more times you encounter that, the more you've got to know it's slowing you down.
Okay, our tracker Mugs got us covered. The Mermaids did not have the ribbon. It was actually on the floor before Kraken, so somewhere on the Sharknado floor, but not in the Sharknado room, or it must have been before I was watching. Bottom left floor, according to Nimbus Owl in chat, thanks for helping me out. It's a pretty obscure one that not a lot of people are going to check, especially if they do see you later on and are already sort of rushing or otherwise preoccupied.
Definitely, and some of those chests come with trap tiles as well, so it's sort of things that you want to avoid if you could at all help, and that's going to be Falconic's first ribbon, so it's definitely one of those things where he definitely needs to check more chests and keep an eye out for those ribbons. We got Brought on the 3rd floor now, checking a fairly dense area here in Sky Castle.
Yeah, this is, I think, the densest floor. There's a room with 4, there's a room with 6, there's another room with 4. It's as far as density goes, it's hard to beat this one. He completely go-moded the previous floor, the clock-shaped room with chests in every direction. He said, nah, not enough density for me. The floor before that, he leveraged the warp spell to be able to individually go in all 4 directions and skip some of half the encounter tiles, steps he would have had to make. So he's been pretty judicious about what he's checking, what he's not, but really nothing paying off for him. He's got no ribbons to show for it, and that's got to be what he's looking for.
Yeah, so we know now that one of them is in an out-of-the-way chest, semi-out-of-the-way chest in Sea Shrine. We know one of them is in the Marsh Cave, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see where that 3rd ribbon ends up, because if it's not in a common area, I mean, our runners may find one at best at this point.
Jay Coper's got his floater. He's got 1 orb lit, he's got quite a few levels, and he's got a ribbon that I can be fairly safe to say no one else is going to get. So, still not out of this race.
Nope, but we do have a ribbon sighting in what we consider some of the freebie chests on Sky 3F. If you're going to go mode that, at least check the 4 chests right before the maze, essentially the teleporter's maze. Those 4 chests are free to check in that room. You don't encounter any encounters along those bottom tiles. We've got Falconic, who had found Adamant, must have found it in Sea Shrine as well, picking up his Excalibur. Interesting to see what he does here. He might have moved that Massman to his other character.
He's got 2 knights, man. He's got dual-wielding knights, Excalibur and Massman. What more could you ask for?
I did forget that. So that's advantage Falconic a little bit, getting that 2-fighter strategy going. That's something that Papa Foy's, one of our tournament runners, kind of helped popularize a little bit, at least for the purposes of the Swiss flags, is this double fighter strategy. And it's definitely gear dependent, but it's very strong if you manage to find enough gear for it.
And that's exactly what he does here with Excalibur and Masamune. He's going to be tickled pink. Now, I got a question for you. I'm going to propose this, and let me see what you think. So we've got a ribbon in the easy peasy chests on the west wing of that sky floor, the freebies that like everyone and their brother knows to check. So that means everyone should get it, and I mean everyone is probably going to find it. So if they get there and they do Mirage and Sky first and find that one ribbon, and then they kind of, you know, maybe they check Mermaids, they don't find one there, they go kill Kraken, then they're under the gun, they're moving ahead. That might be the only ribbon that some of these people get. We know the other one's in Marsh, and nobody but Jay Coper's getting that. And we know the other one was an out-of-the-way place in Sea Shrine, and Falconic's the only one getting that. So people are going to have one ribbon, and if we have a bad Topher, it's only Falconic and Jay Coper so far that look like they're going to have two.
Perhaps, but that's going to be a little bit of a gamble as well, as you're sort of gambling against a bad Topher. You never really know what Topher is going to give you. Sometimes Topher will punish you for your efforts to be prepared. As we've got a Warmech sighting with Ink on Broadster's channel. We didn't even get a chance to get you guys to put those Bless RNGs in chat for Warmech.
He's thinking about it, but he's thinking about running too. Oh, no.
Oh boy, this is happening.
It's happening. He wants the EXP. Warmech's worth, impressive 32,000 EXP. And he's going to say, you know what, I think I can do it. I've got a pretty strong party. And he does. So let's see how this pans out.
This is icing on a cake if he can pull this off, because his party is pretty well leveled at this point.
He's just going to layer on the tempers and start swinging that Massa. He's got Invis 2, Uncorks a Fade. Warmech just throwing out some spells here. Not much to worry about yet. And 8 hits, 520. It's all over but the Cryon. That was fast. That old piece of machinery just crumbles to dust.
It's more like Peace Mech, am I right?
Hey, more like piece of junk mech, too.
So, a little teaser for you guys. Something that we're rolling out for the bracket flags is the Final Fantasy Spring Tournament, Final Fantasy Randomizer Spring Tournament Fantasy League. And so, like fantasy football or fantasy baseball, you're going to get to cheer on some of your favorite top 16 finalists as they earn points doing specific objectives that may or may not be part of a particular game. Warmech is one of them. If your runner manages to kill a Warmech, you would earn points based on that, and so then you would sort of compete like you would in fantasy sports. Zara is going to have that whole thing laid out for you either tonight after the race on Randomania or tomorrow, perhaps Sunday. We have to get on our Discord channel. That is the best place to find out what information is going on when. You can certainly find out we are going to have a full-on bracket reveal show that is going to occur either tomorrow or on Sunday. Join us on our Discord channel. Stay up to date with the latest in Final Fantasy Randomizer news. But the brackets, the Final Fantasy Randomizer League, Randomizer Spring Tournament Fantasy League will also be previewed at one of those times.
Fantasy, Final Fantasy. I mean, it just about says itself. If you're thinking joining a Discord is sort of intimidating, like there's such an established player base, how can I get involved in something? I'm such a new person to this. You don't have to feel that way. And I mean, we were all the newest person to join the community at some point. Since the inauguration of this tournament, it has doubled from a little over 200 to like over 500 people in that Discord. It's crazy, the size of this community. Most people have only been there for a month or two. It is still a bunch of very new people that love this game. It's not like you're joining some old boys club or anything like that. It's very modern attitudes, very welcoming, very open, welcoming community, and we'd love to have you as a member.
Definitely, and I mean, some of these runners that you see here, Wilcleosis and Valconic, they just started playing and jumped into the tournament, and now they're vying for their tournament lives here. So definitely don't feel intimidated by the presence of veterans around you. Some of these runners, many of these runners in this race even, just jumped in right before the tournament started, and so there's a new player help channel and all kinds of things to help you get started.
All right, let's take stock where we are as we're at 1:28, approaching an hour and a half. This is, if you've been watching some Final Fantasy Randomizer tournaments so far, this is about where races are normally getting finished. But as we see from the 8s in the center of our screen, no one has finished. All 8 passing places are still up for grabs. Wilcleosis has 2 orbs lit. He's in the waterfall about to get his cube. Broadster has 3 orbs lit, doing very well. Just finished off Tiamat in the Sky Castle. All he's got to do is polish off that, I believe, the Sea Shrine orb. Falconic and has 2 as well, as different ones than Will, of course. And Jay Coper on our stream is lagging. He got off to a rough start and missed out on the ship and the TNT early, went to the Marsh Cave, had to go back to get them, so he's behind a bit. But he found a ribbon in the Marsh Cave that no one else is going to find, and it remains to be seen if that's going to help him claw back into this race towards its latter stages.
Just keeping an eye out on the list here. It looks like no one has lit 4 orbs yet, so that's going to be a good sign for our runners.
Words of encouragement from Fuzzy Mage in our chat. 4-1. Picked up the randomizer 2 weeks before the tourney started. That could be you with the next event.
Yeah, just so you guys know, we are not physically watching the other runners. We are only physically watching these 4. We have a sort of data sheet that gets updated on a Google Doc that tells us how runners are doing. So as long as the sheet is up to date, that is as much as we know about any of the other runners. You guys could very well be watching runners in various places right now. You could see a 4th orb runner, but we are trying to stay as up to date as we possibly can. And from our vantage point, it does not look like anybody has 4 orbs lit just yet. So we'll see what happens here as we're drawing ever closer to the conclusion of our Final Fantasy Randomizer Spring Tournament play-in race.
And only 5 people have 3 orbs lit. So even the front runners who are distancing themselves, like there's not enough there to say, oh, this is the winning pack. Like anyone can make a comeback from if we look at who's struggling the most. To use such a negative term, I'm going to have to do it. We've got a couple people that have just 1 or none lit yet. So even Jay Coper has a good shot here. And again, that could be an accounting error. I'm just working out this document. So I apologize if I'm spreading misinformation. But it looks like the qualifying bubble, if you will, the 8th place is still very much attainable for anyone.
Yeah, definitely. And when we get to the winner, we're certainly going to say congratulations to the winner. But unlike our original Final Fantasy Randomizer League, it does not matter necessarily that the first place finisher actually finishes, but rather we are going to keep a weather eye on that 8th slot. So we will see who our top 8 runners are by the end of this night. Top 8 runners qualify for the bracket stages. They will face one of our automatic qualifiers who had a 4-1 or better record. So like I said earlier, it's out of the frying pan and into the fire with some of these runners, but don't let that fool you. There is some great talent in this race and in this tournament, so it's definitely going to be an exciting second half to our spring tournament.
And yeah, we haven't even seen the most random part of all, which is the final 4 battles of the Temple of Fiends are visited. In particular, the final 3. They can be just uncannily cruel, depending on who's got the nukes and the nuclears and the Cure 4s out there. It can get ugly. So no matter how much of a lead you think someone has going in, if they're underleveled or they don't have the gear, they've only got 1 ribbon, situations vary depending on, on the situation, anyone can make a huge comeback. So, how this all shakes out remains to be seen, but with 8 places still up for grabs, nowhere to hide. Everyone's still got a shot.
We've got Broadster now taking on Kraken 1 here. Coming out with the Fade Temper build-up strats here. Kraken opens with a Fire 2. Apparently we've got some hot calamari action going on here. A huge hit from Broadster there. 8 hits for 604. 1 more of those should take him out. The Swiss Flag's percentages only go up to 150%, with Kraken's base hit points of, I believe it's 800. That can only go up to, I think, 1,000. So 2 good whacks with that Mass Immune takes him out.
Looks like Brat and Offstream Ice Blue are high-fiving, because as I checked the document to see it update, Brat's got his water orb, and so too does Ice Blue. So those 2 have all 4 orbs lit and are now officially clearly front runners, as they're basically ready to head to Ordeals once they complete the key quest, get the Mystic Key.
Yeah, I looked down, I thought I saw a 3rd, but no, you're absolutely right. There are only 2 runners now who have 4 orbs lit. One of them is right on our screen, so stay tuned right here, ladies and gentlemen. You could see the winner of the Final Fantasy Randomizer play-in race.
And as exciting as the winner is, we all know we really want to see who comes 8th. because that is going to be the biggest sigh of relief this person has uttered this week. And, our heart goes out to whoever comes ninth, but you can't win them all. Somebody's got to win. Somebody's got to go home.
I just had an alert on my Apple Watch that tells me that my heart rate went up over 120 a couple of minutes ago. So either I need a doctor or this race is just too darn exciting.
I know that my heart's beating too. I'm getting a good workout here, I think. I should watch and commentate on more of these races. Once again on stream, Will Cleosis in the top left corner, Baratzer in the top right corner, bottom left corner, Jay Coper, bottom right, Falconic. Our tracker tonight is Moist Mogwai. My co-commentator is Sforzando. I am Nitz. And we're really happy to have you with us on Randomania 2, if that's your choice. And we've got 3 more races just like this on Randomania, Randomania 3, and Randomania 4. This is the Final Fantasy Randomizer Spring Tournament play-in race. 15 entrants, 8 move on to the round of 16.
Yeah, and huge props to Norastra for putting this whole thing on, allowing simultaneously all 15 runners to be featured here. Wholehearted thanks to Wolfman 2000 for being our restreamer. Also, for Nora doing the restream on Randomania 1, Shylesia for doing the Randomania 3 restream, Zardia for doing this whole tournament, but also the restream on 4. Thanks to Moist Mogwai for being our tracker. Feel free to give Randomania its auxiliary channels, its runners, its commentators, its restreamers a follow. Just let them know that you appreciate this content, that you want to see more of it. That is certainly the best way to do so.
This is the biggest online Twitch stream production I've ever been a part of, and it has gone off without a hitch so far. I've got both of my hands as fingers crossed that things stay this way. What a treat for us to watch tonight.
Yeah, and this has definitely not been a straightforward seed. For those of you coming in, just stumbling in here, you may see a lot of people with the floater. It was not the case. The floater was found, I think, around, the 45, 50 minute mark or so. This was a ship-required seed with the floater being a castle ordeal. So our runners are at various stages of slotting, I should say. I would say the lead, if you will, but they're at various stages because of the decisions that they've made when they realized that the floater was going to be outside of the purview and they had to dig through chests to find the ship. So we will be interested to see how they cross the finish line, but certainly Temple of Fiends Revisited can be the great equalizer that nullifies any of that advantage you may have had.
And what a group to get this seed. If this was an ordinary Swiss race between a newcomer and a veteran, it could have been a pretty uninteresting race. That newcomer may have struggled to make the realizations where they had to go, what they had to look for. The veteran could have won by half an hour or more, and you would never think twice about it. But with 15 runners of almost exactly the same caliber, all 3 and 2, all gunning for the playoffs, and all like their heads in the game, everyone has managed to overcome that initial challenge and stay relatively close to each other throughout the first 96 minutes. So what a race.
And we've got Brat going through a little cleanup in his inventory to make sure those heals go in the top slot, or in the right slot. This is for inventory management, for the ability to have access to your heals. In Final Fantasy 1, you cannot move your inventory around to put things in convenient locations, so you are forced to do a little bit of manipulation to try and get heals in a spot where you only need to hit one input to be able to have access to them.
All right, we got Jay Coper looking after his key quest early. This is nice. You have to do it at some point anyway. If you're strong enough to blow away Astos, it doesn't really matter too much when, depending on how you want to route things in. But getting the key early does allow you to take care of those key locations at your leisure. So we know there's one in the Dwarf Cave, a ribbon in, that he's going to be happy to find, and that'll give him 2. He may well be one of the few runners to have 2 ribbons. Falconic is another one on stream in the bottom right corner.
Yeah, so we've got a Temple of Fiends Revisited entrance 137.15. So you know this has not been a straightforward seed when no one has finished at the 137 mark. The Swiss Flag's record was 110.55 set by Tristal. We had, I don't think anybody else turned in a time in the 110s. And then we had a handful of in the 120s, but I think the average was about 130 or 140 for a finish. So where we would normally come to see the end of a race coming soon, we have it just beginning in the final dungeon. So definitely interested to see how bad these fiends are going to be and whether they treat our runners fairly or not.
And Will picks up a Pro Cape on the first floor of Mirage Tower. It matches and pairs nicely with the Pro Ring, really shows off your professionalism. I'm just kidding, it stands for protection, of course. The Pro Cape is actually a shield, and it matches well for the mages. It's the best shield that any of the mages can equip, and it provides 8 absorb as well. It doesn't provide any kind of death resistance, but since you can't buy them, finding them and throwing them on your mages is nice.
Interesting, one of the things that we didn't really point out, Ruse was a castable item, a castable spell by night. Now, I know we all found the defense sword, but if we had not found the defense sword, finding Ruse in the 3rd slot at level 1 was not a bad play.
And Will also throwing the black shirt on his dead black wizard. Mentioned before, it also provides ice and time resistance. And since he's only got 0 ribbons at this point, he definitely wants all the resistances he can get his hands on. He should
definitely.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, no, you could see Jake Hoper's picking up the A-Rub spell, knowing potentially he hasn't found a 2nd ribbon yet. He might need that A-Rub spell later on, or he may feel like he's going to need the A-Rub spell later on.
He may be a little bit relieved. He's only got 2 orbs lit so far. He had a bit of a slowdown early game. It took him a long time to get his hands on the ship and the TNT, but no one has finished yet. So, you know, if he saw that first done pop up already, he would obviously be more worried than he is now. He knows he's got a bit of a chance to catch up. Either the Temple of Fiends Revisit is rough, or everyone has suffered a bit of delays over the course of finding the ship and TNT, which is at least partially true.
So we've got Broadster with our first look at Lich 2. And our last look at Lich 2, perhaps, as Lich 2 goes down fairly quickly.
Now, we didn't get a lot of intel on what spells Lich 2 may or may not have had, so we'll have to wait and see what crops up later on. With the skill and script shuffling, there's only so many skills and spells to go around for these final 4 Fiends and Chaos. They also share their scripts with Warmech, and Warmech had some weak sauce. He had like Ice 2 and Fire 3, things that are really not going to scare you very much. So that means the things that Warmech didn't have, all those nuclears, are going to be shuffled into these final 4 Fiends here and Chaos, and we'll see who's got them, because those are the real spells to watch out for.
Well, we have a Stone Touch carry, so hopefully we brought our soft potions there as a 382 crit from the Knight. Oh, and then just trucks that Red Wizard, but hopefully he's got a soft potion.
If he's got 13 softs, so he's off the hook. Whew! I never leave home without my softs. That would have been a hilarious way to get knocked out early with a solid stone white wizard and a red wizard that can't do anything to help. But he escapes death there.
All right, so we're making our way through the water floor now as Broster's going to try and navigate his way to Krakatu. This is really where the game begins. Although Carry 2 did seem to kind of troll him a little bit, this is really where we start calling that the gatekeeper. Kraken 2 hits just as many times, but typically has way more power than even Kraken 1 does. Has a tendency to get slap happy. It is certainly possible that in 4 rounds he could slap each one of your characters dead and not even think twice about it. So we'll be interested to see what happens here to Broadster and some of our other runners as they come across the water floor.
Broadster now about to take on Kraken 2 as he completes the water floor. Either in the lead or as close to it as possible.
So we are getting some updates in the chat. If you are watching on mobile and not following the chat, Edge Figaro is on Chaos, but with a solo Knight. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does there. Oh, and Kraken 2 opens with Nuke and just decimates his party.
And Edge Figaro is defeated. He will have to reset out.
Brat's about to experience the same exact thing that must have been what happened. An opening turn nuke just absolutely ruined Brat's party's day.
And this is exactly the kind of thing we were talking about that's going to help those people that got off to rough starts or had rough middles or had rough early, late games get back into it. Is a really brutal end to Temple of Fiends Revisited. It's excellent television as far as I'm concerned. I hope for the closest finishes possible. I want to see those 8 places just get snapped up in the blink of an eye from each other.
And one thing we did not point out is we did settle the rules at the beginning. If there happens to be a tie for 8th place, there will be a play-in sudden death match.
And wouldn't that be ridiculous? The tiebreaker for the tie in the tiebreaker, which is itself a giant tiebreaker. I would love it. But that is not likely. The closest finish we've ever had was between two racers was about a 2 or a 3 second differential. But with, 15 people all with the same record racing against each other, it's been close so far. Maybe we will have an exact tie.
Yeah, and I'd like to think I know a thing or two about 3 second finishes.
Yeah, you came up on the right side of one.
Yeah, or else I'd be in this race.
How about that, eh?
I'm sorry, or Sforzando would be in this race right now if it weren't for Sforzando's 3 second victory over Drumboardist in week 1.
All right, Jade Coper gets his way through the waterfall. He's got some similar looking whiz mummies and mummies from his script shuffle, but he can tell them apart, and it doesn't matter because he runs away, grabs his cube.
So Will's checking more chests. He's going to be really happy or really sad to see that it'll probably be in the last few chests that he checks in this area looking for that ribbon.
All right, Brat is on to Tiamat 1. He's basically man mode now with his solo knight. We'll see how he comes through this fight. And then we know that Chaos has got something up his sleeve too. So even if he prevails here, it might be a Pyrrhic victory, but we'll find out. He's got the power bonk and he's got the defense sword. This is about as good of a single knight as you can get, but with Tiamat casting fast, that's got to get him worried.
Definitely, and that's one of those things where you are really, really glad you found the power gauntlet. As down goes Tiamat 2. Ladies and gentlemen, that 8 is now a 7. We have Ice Blue. Yes, we have Ice Blue finishing with an SRL time of 1:45.21. Ice Blue was one of the people that I expected to make it through this. He had a rough week 5, losing, I should say, by an unfortunate bout of luck. So it's good to see him punch his ticket. He is definitely one of the tournament favorites. He was the runner-up in the fall tournament, I should say, of 2017. So definitely expecting him to make a splash here in the bracket stages. He has punched his ticket.
But there are still 7 more tickets up for grabs, so nobody better be giving up yet. And even with our front runners all finishing, if they all do relatively close to each other, there's still another 2 or 3 more after all of these pack leaders finish. So even for the people in the middle at the back of the pack, they got to push on. They got to find the heart to keep going because no one is out of this race.
Definitely, and you'll notice one of the things that makes Brat's fighter probably potentially different from Edge Figueros is Brat's fighter is really high level. I mean, coming in with over 600 hit points. That's definitely something, especially with these little piddly spells. It's giving Brat a whole lot of time to get buffed up and properly. And so far, there's a cure for it, but that's not too bad of a sight because you could just start swinging and everything is all right, except he's got a pretty high evasion rate.
63 damage from the Massman. There's the nuke for 380. Another one of those or a couple of nuclears. It really depends what's in that spell pool. He's got nuke. He's got cure 4. Brat lays on a hit for 450. Another one for 1,001 damage. Chaos on the ropes. 2 hits, 298. It's over. Brat is finished, has qualified. That 7's going to become a 6 any second. And all of a sudden, people can feel the clock ticking.
Yeah, that 7's going to drop to a 6 as we now have our second golden ticket handed out to Bratster. We're going to try and get him in for commentary to get him to talk a little bit about the seed and what it's good for him to have made the Sweet 16 bracket.
Yeah, so in traditional Final Fantasy Randomizer process, we're going to bring in Brat for a little post-race interview here, but since the nature of this is such that we have like 15 runners, 8 places, it might drag on for a bit. We're not going to keep him around for probably the entire length of the race, just a quick interview, and then over the course of things, if we say finish off all 4 runners and there's still racers going on, we'll gradually filter the stream, and our restreamers indicated that we're going to start hosting the other channels as things wrap up, as you might expect. So we'll try to keep things moving, but there's lots of racers and lots of places yet to be awarded.
All right. So we are now joined in chat by our second place victor tonight, Brat. GG, man. That's a heck of a man mode chaos there.
Nice, yeah. I think this is the third time in a row I had to 1v1.
Second place. Sorry to interrupt. Second place, 147.04. Good enough to advance. Just minutes behind Ice Blue. Did you approach this this huge race differently than you would have, say, a one-on-one race?
At first, that was the original plan. The original plan was to just play safe and level up. But because of how unique the beginning of the game was, no good spells, you couldn't really farm anything until like the fires and Volcano were probably the best ones to level up with. It just was a really odd seed at the beginning. So after I stumbled out of the gate, I decided to just focus on trying to play like I normally do.
Yeah, you were really high level going into that. You had a fairly smooth Warmat kill. What led you to take that? Because you were already in a pretty good levels position. Maybe that was that what it was?
Honestly, I only fought him because of just, I don't know, I just felt like everyone would enjoy it.
You were this close to reset, and you're like, you know what, for the lulz, and then you managed to pull it off. He busted out a nuke, chopped off half your HP, but you had enough power bonks in you that by then that you really started to dish out the harm. I think one of the attacks was over 1,000 damage.
Yeah, I used the bonk. I can't remember if I used it 2 or 3 times, and then I hit him for like 1 hit for 67, so I was like, oh, okay, this is what it's going to be. And then 2 hits later, it was like 1,000 crit, so it's pretty good.
Well, blink and you missed it. I believe that Falconic there is made it to Kraken 2. He is definitely cleaved through this Temple of Fiends floor. He's looking to punch his ticket, and he is oh so close right now. That Kraken fight was a little rough, Brato. I know the people watched it, but just kind of walk us through how you process that.
Well, normally Kraken one-shots people, so I tried to set it up so one of my 2 mages with life would be able to obviously revive any fallen party members, but after the extremely high roll nuke, I think each one was like over 320 or something, so that's pretty unlucky. But after that, I was too far in to reset. If it was Lich and that happened, maybe I reset, but at Kraken, you have to just keep going.
Thankfully, you had the tools necessary. Having both the Defense Sword out of Armory and the Power Gauntlet out of Dwarf Cave, seemed like you were handed a lot of gear except for those ribbons.
Yeah, I just found one. Did anybody else find a ribbon? Like
yeah, all 3 ribbons were found. There was... Oh, Nitz, tell him about it.
So Jay Coper made an early route divergence when he didn't find the ship in TNT, just like everybody else, but he kind of gambled a bit and headed over to Marsh, and he found a ribbon in the bottom of the Marsh cave. I think he's the only person at all that has found that. And Falconic found the 3rd one in the bottom left corner of the Sharknado floor, but not in that room. It was in the bottom left corner room that like people never visit. So Jay Coper and Falconic are gonna have 2 ribbons because, of course, the 3rd one was in the free room on the left side of Sky Palace, but nobody else would really have more than 1.
Yeah, the chance of anyone else getting a 2nd one is probably very unlikely. This seed, I will say that this seed is very appropriate for what it is. No early spells. The ship in a chest that people may try and skip. Probably not likely, given how the seed played out, but it is possible that people skip that chest. So it was fun.
That's very prescient of you to make that guess, because Will Cleosis actually got off to a great start, and he was off to an early lead when he ran into some trouble in Volcano. He got a little ahead of himself, didn't have enough heals, so he decided to, check all the chests he could and then try to run out. But of course, he ran out after completing the Agama room and left the Red D chest unchecked, and then wiped on his way out. So he immediately took off and didn't come back until much later to find the ship. So that was particularly unlucky for him.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't know was... So I know that the ship spawns at the closest port, but I've never had a seed where it was in Volcano that you needed it. So I wasn't sure if it was going to be north of Elfland or if it was going to be Provoca. So
Yeah.
I was like, I took a guess there.
Yeah.
Yeah, good guess. All right, well, as we've got Falconic moving here, Brat, we're going to try and move you over to Commentary 1. We're going to be funneling a lot of our action over there, so we're going to bid you adieu here as we watch Falconic take on the Chaos fight here. Brat, GG, congrats on second place. I'm definitely glad to see you punch your ticket. Welcome to the bracket of 16. We look forward to, hopefully, a deep run from you.
Perfect, thanks a lot.
So where we had the man mode from Brad, we now have a two-man mode from Falconic, a little nuclear action from Tiamat to drop the white mage. So now we've got two fighters.
Yeah, it's bro mode. It's bro mode.
I love it.
Massive Moons, Excaliburs, we got a Power Monk, we got a White Shirt. Yeah, these bros are going to do it because the mages just couldn't take the heat. So this is a pretty good party for this final battle. Oh, Chaos with a nuclear too. Final Fantasy Randomizer battles are not long battles, they're just vicious battles. So the one bro out in front has the weaker sword, he's going to try and tank the hits, and bro at the back has the Massive Moon, he's going to try and stay alive and do the damage. That looks to be the plan here, and so far it's working out.
Yeah, if he could just get that HP up to like maybe 3, I'd like to see maybe 320. If he keeps going, he keeps going, but try to get that HP enough up to survive potentially another nuclear or something worse. The one downside to potions is unfortunately potions do not heal for 30 in battle as they do in the non-battle inventory, so it's taking him a little longer to get that HP total back up.
Fortunately for him, Chaos being nice with some relatively weak attacks here while he tries to power up so much as he can. He's down to his last 5 heals too, so just about out of gas here, but not getting the good rolls that Brock got early. Oh, there's Chaos with the full cure force. So he's going to have to start over, but he gets to keep all his buffs. 665 is a good start. He's going to need a few more of those to get this done.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little bit of a reset, but thankfully it's not very caster heavy as we've got another nuclear out. It's good survivability here. Because it's not spell heavy, you don't feel like you wasted any resources, so good for him. As we are watching Falconic's attempt to drop Chaos, we are going to drop that number down to 5. Oh no! And Falconic dies to a nuke as we drop that number to 5. Edge Figaro has finished in 3rd place with an SRL time of 1:55.50. That is going to hurt Falconic. Let's see if he can recover, get through, push through, and try that again. That is something Brat did not see in his run, so Falconic's going to give this another college try and see what happens.
Will's going to do something a little unusual and go check out the mermaid suit we've got down here. He's obviously looking for some more ribbons, but we know there isn't.
Wow! Let's tick that number down to 4. No offense meant, but this is a huge entry. We've got Bismarck, 189 in 4th place. Glad to see him punch his ticket. Official SRL time, 1:56.57. GG Bismarck. Glad to see you in the round of 16 there. As our runners continue pushing, we've got Falconic going back into the Temple of Fiends, trying to figure out how to overcome that Chaos fight. It looked like all was going well, except it was, what, double nuclear nuke? Not quite lined up right, but...
Jake Cooper making his slow comeback. He's now in Sky Palace. He's got one more orb to light. Only about 8 of the runners have lit all of the orbs so far. So
that's 2 now. I think you've done that. I think you've done that twice now.
It's all this pressure. Can't take it. Too much stress.
Apologies to Brat. We are apparently not going to be filtering the racers as they finish 2 Randomania 1. They are going to do their commentary exclusively on the channels. My apologies to Bratster for kicking him out. I was a little confused as to how that was going to... Oh, and he's back with us. Okay, sorry about that, Brat.
Oh, I'll forgive you this time.
Whew, I needed that.
Let's just hope we play in the bracket stage.
I tell you, there are a lot of racers in this 3-2 bracket that are definitely going to make a lot of noise, or in this 3-2 race that are going to make a lot of noise. And Brad, I know you're one of the old school players who's been playing for a very long time, so I know definitely, depending on who you get paired with in that first round, you definitely have a lot of potential to do some damage here.
Yeah, well, yeah, I wasn't one of the originators of the players, but I joined fairly early, I suppose. But yeah, I will say that the 3-2 bracket was pretty stacked. Both edges, ice blue.
Yeah, it's fun. You think of it as some last-ditch qualifying race, and then you look at the people in it, and you're like, okay, this community has grown. There are actually 8 people free and clear who are already deadly, and then most of this 3-2 bracket are also top flight runners of this game. It's like, how did there become so many?
Speaking of that, we dropped the number from 4 to 3. We're going to drop it again from 3 to 2. In 5th place, Ickman Maya, 159.34. Edgeworth, finally cashes in 2 hours and 9 seconds. So we have 2 spots left. Who's going to get him is up for grabs. We've got Falconic right on the edge. A wipe to Chaos's double nuclear nuke. Who is going to grab those last 2 spots? So we have Will Cleosis and Jake Hoper both vying with their respective fiends to light their final orb to take their first crack into Temple of Fiends. We've got Will Cleosis downing Kraken 2, or Kraken 1, my apologies, to light his water orb.
And as Will Cleosis downs Kraken 1, Falconic about to take on Kraken 2. Try and get back to where he was moments ago with a shot to defeat Chaos and grab one of these last 2 spots in the round of 16.
And Edgeworth was definitely one of those guys I predicted from the start to make sure that he punched his ticket. And he even mentioned as much after his loss in week 5. He said if he plays his game, then he feels very confident to win. And I think that's probably true for a lot of our runners. This one kind of punched him in the mouth a little bit. As Brat, you kind of mentioned it earlier as well. Sort of you had an idea and a game plan, but then the seed kind of displayed itself to you and you had to adjust accordingly. And I think you definitely adjusted well finishing in 2nd place, where some of our runners have not really taken too well to the adjustments.
Yeah, a huge group of people on the bubble from 1:55 to 2 minutes. There's 4 people finishing in that 5-minute stretch now. With only 2 slots left to go, we've no Falconic deep in Temple of Fiends are visited. High Spirits should be there as well. Had all 4 orbs lit for a while now, so not sure of his exact whereabouts, but obviously, these 2 both got a good shot to take these last 2 places here.
Oh, and Kraken 2 wipes out the top knight with the poison damage. So we've got 1 knight to go. Tell me if this sounds familiar. A 1 single fighter going into Tiamat 2.
But not the levels that Brat had, so not the... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, just the way I like it.
It makes the menuing faster.
Exactly.
Yeah, you've less people to take actions for, and it kind of works itself out. You had a fairly good turn order with Chaos, him opening with a couple of tier 2, maybe even a tier 3, mostly tier 2 spells. Did do a whole lot of damage, so you were able to stack those Rouge Charges, stack those Power Bonks kind of appropriately. Didn't get a whole lot of damage before the Cure 4 came out. That was pretty fortunate for you.
Yep, and then I pretty much just defense over 3 times, then power bonked until I saw nuclear, sorry. And I thought, well, maybe it's time to start going for it.
Yeah, so we got
just,
almost... go ahead.
I was going to say, this just goes to show how close everyone is. On Randomania 4, Tristal just started his fight with Chaos, and he's 4-1. So it just, like I said, it shows how close everyone is.
And don't look now. Jay Coper and Will Cleosis both fighting the Phantom at exactly the same time. How is that even possible after the start that Jay Coper had?
Definitely. I think Falconic's going for a couple of levels here. He's definitely got a feel as he's taken his second wipe now to Tiamat 2. Tristal had called himself the pace car as he has the Swiss rounds record at 1:10.55. He had called himself the pace car, has not turned in a top 8 time. Where he finishes does not officially matter in terms of the play-in seeding. He was more or less to fill out the 4th spot on RM4, and if he is just now getting to Chaos, that just shows you how tough the seed is for a lot of our runners. So we've got 2 spots left. We've got Jay Coper and Will Cleosis. And Falconic's on the earth floor grinding a little bit, but we've got Will Cleosis and Jay Coper are on kind of a similar area.
We got High Spirits fighting Chaos with just a knight, like pretty much everyone else. Oh.
Tell me if that doesn't sound familiar. This is a great finish for the solo fighters. There's been probably more wipes. I mean, you lucked out. You definitely lucked out because you didn't see. You might have seen both nuclears, but you didn't see the nuke spell that he had that came, I think, 1 or 2 spells after that Cure 4, and that's what did Falconic in. Otherwise, he would have gotten in.
And I've got word that High Spirits wiped on his Chaos fight, so he's back outside of Topher. Falconic still inside, yeah. Jay Coper, halfway down, about to take on Kraken.
You never know, folks. Topher's the great equalizer. Jay Coper could pull this out as far behind as we see. With a Marsh dive that yielded only a ribbon, Jay Coper could pull this out. We will keep track of what's on here. Certainly the multi stream link has been posted. If you want to watch the action on all 4 channels, this is a crazy finish, I'm not going to lie.
It's a barn burner. It's a wild one.
Lord Fizzlebeef is on cast with a full party. Trista wiped. So he's on the earth floor.
Wow. So we got potential there, depending on how Fizzlebeef handles those double nuke Chaos. Full party. He might use some spells and then see that Cure 4 and be a little sad. Or if he dumps everything into the night like everyone else kind of has, we'll hopefully see another one here really soon.
Jay Coper passed Lich 2.
And Lord Fizzlebeef finished in 7th with a time of 2 hours and 6 minutes and 51 seconds.
So we've lowered that 2 to a 1. That's it. Next time wins. Everyone after that starts the crying. So we've got 1 spot left. Who's it going to? That's awesome of Lord Fizzlebeef. I think he's another one of our newer runners that started before, I think maybe sometime during the league, during the Winter League he started. So he's been playing for a little while, but definitely good to see him clinch one of those spots. GG, Lord Fizzlebeef. 1 spot left. Who's going to grab it? Falconic is grinding, and it's tough, especially if you have seen that 7th Racer Cross. To grind at this point, it's a little tough. But he's wiped twice, and so maybe he feels like this is what he's got to do.
At this point, 8th place, or I should say 9th place, is the same as becoming in last for this, so I would just go for it.
Yeah, there's not much more time. Like, you got to feel the door closing. We've got Jay Coper taking on Carry 2. We know Carry 2 hasn't been too much of a problem so far. Some strong attack, but should go down fairly straightforward.
Yes, and feel free to, we're going to push everything over to Randomania at the conclusion of this match, our sort of bracket pre-show where we're going to slot these runners that are finishing the play-in race. So it's definitely going to be a cool little thing that Zardia's putting on after this race is over. Feel free to stick with us. We'll definitely be over there sort of commiserating, celebrating, and then preparing for the task at head.
So
Jake Cooper now on the water floor. Sorry, Brad, go ahead.
not a problem. I was going to say that Carrie also has stone touch, if you guys didn't notice on when I went through.
Yeah, we were worried.
I got very lucky because the White Wizard went down to about 40 hit points and then got stoned, which is probably a good thing. Because
yeah, locked in your HP there without the death.
Exactly, and the Red Mage took a dirt nap the turn after, so...
Way too many people to count. Everyone basically in Topher at this point. I saw some carry 2s. Silverfire on another floor of Topher, just trying to get that sorted out.
We're definitely waiting for some high-profile turn-ins. Demerin on Night Moding Chaos. Tell me if that sounds familiar. We are waiting on whether or not High Spirits can finish, close it out. Silverfire's another strong one. Tilo's another strong runner. These are people that we are just waiting to punch their ticket, the last golden ticket to the bracket round of 16.
You say the name Demerin, just wiped on Chaos. So close to the 8th spot. Just took a wipe on Chaos.
One spot left. Someone is going to punch the ticket into the bracket stages here, but it's not going to be an easy victory, I tell you what. We've got Jay Coper with his first encounter on Kraken 2, who opens with Nuclear as his first or her first spell. So let's see what happens.
It's a poison, but he's got 2 ribbons, 2 glorious ribbons, and they shield 2 of his glorious party members.
Yeah, that's going to be one of the downsides to potentially opening with poisoning, is if he doesn't get those hit points up fast, that nuke is going to just absolutely destroy his party at this point. But he's opting for mitigation at this point, which is not, I mean, it's not a bad call. He just doesn't know the nuke is looming.
Can we get a shout out to Cesar for this amazingly rolled seed?
Definitely on that ZaRNG. Some of us like me were begging for Cyclone to roll the seed, but ZaRNG never fails to disappoint. As we've got Jay Coper man-voting Kraken.
Yeah, he's walking
Tell me if this sounds familiar.
He's walking a well-trodden path into the air floor of Temple of Fiends Revisited. He's going to shuffle everything over, the ribbon, the defense sword if he wants, the power bonk, which I think everyone has. Like, it's a story that we've told several times tonight. We've got 1 spot left. We've got yet another man mode knight headed down to the depths of the Temple of Fiends Revisited, trying to get to Chaos, trying to punch that last ticket.
I would be genuinely curious, of all the runners that we did not get to track. We know we've been kind of keeping a couple of tabs, thanks to you guys in chat, keeping tags on who's doing the fights with Chaos, who's man moding, etc., etc. I'd be curious about like Ice Blue, Edgeworth, Bismarck, Maya. Did they have to man mode their respective Chaos fights? We know Fizzlebeef had a full party going into that fight. But as far as the other runners, it'd be interesting to see how many runners clear Chaos literally by the skin of their teeth.
Looks like Jay Coper's is getting beaten down by worms here.
This is not good. Fighters have kind of a notoriously poor run rate here.
And he
does not get the run again. Ouch.
Looks like
the Shofukamachi 4 worms takes out Jay Coper.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be his night. We have too many runners with more levels than him deeper in the dungeon now. Then he's going to have to start over from scratch. But
just going to have to push through. Push through till you get that 8th slot.
Near comeback by Jay Coper.
The 4 worms almost did me in as well. I made the mistake of not using my defense sword first. I just tried to attack them down. Because I thought that was the safer strat than just trying to run. Because if you can't run, then now you're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
Definitely learned from my mistake, though.
Stop me if you've heard this before. Will Cleosis defeats Kraken 1 with a lone knight. Still alive. I feel like I should just record that, put it on vinyl, break it so that it's broken and skips, and just keep playing that.
Solo Knight moving into Tiamat 2. You know, if you're Jay Coper, you just got to push on. Here's that opening nuke again from Falconic, wiping out the 2 mage casters, left with the 2 knights.
High Spirits is on the final floor, but face Chaos with a full party.
We know,
looks good.
It looks like it could be good. We know Chaos has some nasty magic, though. That non-elemental stuff, like nuke and nuclear, cuts through those ribbons like they're not even there. So,
our pace car has turned in a time. I will say 8th place. It's 8th place on SRL, but it's not the 8th slot. Our pace car has come in at 2:13:48. He's sort of a good metric to see how. That might have scared a couple of our runners. Just realized they look over and they see that so-and-so has turned in without seeing it's Tristal. It's like, oh no, the 8th slot, but nope, it's okay. It's okay. Our pace car, who tries to set a good pace for this, you can tell how bad the seat has been, turns in a time of 2:13:48. So props to all the runners that finished before Tristal. If you were facing him in this round, you would have gone up 1-0. And that's not an easy thing to say.
Yeah, how often do you think Tristal enters an FFR race with 15 people and comes in the middle? That's not what you expect.
Tristal MTG is our fall 2017 Final Fantasy Randomizer Tournament champion. Just to give you guys an indication of why we kind of call him the pace car, is he is the the reigning champion of this, and so also co-champion of our Final Fantasy Randomizer Winter League. That's
there it is.
It's
off stream. We're going to go down to a 0 as High Spirits, on whichever attempt it was, has finished 9th in this race, but 8th in the runners that matter, and takes the last spot in the round of 16.
High Spirits is the Dragon Warrior Randomizer champion. No surprise that his skill with JRPGs comes over to Final Fantasy Randomizer and has a good showing. Welcome to the bracket of 16. That is it, your bracket of 16. Let's see if I can recap this real quick as we've got Falconic on the Chaos Fight Double Knight. You want to see him finish well. Let's cheer him on, folks. Let's see here. This is kind of a long sort of list here. We have Ice Blue first, Bratster in second, Edge Figaro third, Bismarck fourth, Bismarck 189 fourth. We had Ik Ben Maya fifth. We had Edgeworth in 6th, Lord Fizzlebeef 7, and High Spirits 8. Those are your qualifying bracket stage finalists. So GG to all those. We've got Will also on the Chaos Fight, trying to ward off that opening nuclear.
He weathers it. Oh, he gets rubbed.
Did he just get rubbed through the ribbon? Tell me he had a ribbon on. That's bad luck right there, getting rubbed through that ribbon.
Ugh. If it had happened before the GG, that would be rage-inducing. That's controller throwing bad luck. But see.
And 1 minute and 47 seconds. 1 minute 37 seconds too late. Tilo turns in a time of 2:16:34.
Iconic right after.
Yeah, right after that.
Oh, and there it is. Official SRL time for Falconic, 2:16:48. 1 minute and 49 seconds too late.
Looks like
GG to both of those, though.
Looks like our other on-stream runners are going to try and finish strong here. Jay Coper now on the water floor again. Made an amazing comeback. Had a shot to take the last spot, but perished on the air floor. With, you guessed it, a single knight surviving the Kraken 2 fight. So just an incredible race, even whether you off to a good start or not. Everybody was in this until the final moments. Just about everybody had a shot at Chaos and wiped that if they had won that fight, would have punched their ticket. So unbelievable the grasping that has gone on and how close so many of these runners were to winning.
Yeah, and that's been absolutely crazy as Silverfire finishes in 11th place, essentially. We're not counting Tristal as the standings, but at 11th place, 2:17:26. So now we're seeing another little logjam of these people who are probably on their second, third attempt at Chaos. Man, I don't think you could have asked for a tougher seed for our runners to endure to punch their ticket. I mean, I think it was great. It wasn't a jet seed. It tested your ability to focus, to stay focused, to stay on the game plan, or to know how to deviate from the game plan properly, as of course Brat did brilliantly.
Yeah, in the case of Brat, the early levels he gained by grinding a bit, especially on the eye you pointed out, paid off in spades. It was a kind of Temple of Fiends Revisited that was hard, but not impossibly hard. But if you were trying to cheat it with too low levels, those Nuke and Nuclear on Chaos, there's only one cure for Nuke and Nuclear, and it's having a lot of HP. And he had enough to get by and survive and win. Well, come second, but win as far as he's concerned and move on to the round of 16. And
all you have to do is punch your ticket at this point.
Yeah. There was no prize for first, and there was a prize for 8th. It's just the same. But 9th is not going to do it. And Tilo Tilo was the first person to realize that. Moments later, Falconic. Moments later, Silver Fire. We're just down to Jay Coper and Will Cleosis, yet to forfeit, yet to finish. They're both on our streams, so you can catch that right here. And then after they choose to finish, or if they toss it in, we're going to throw the host over to Randomania for the reveal of the round of 16, because with all the racers finished that have qualified, we can now project our round of 16.
So I have a question. The question is, will the brackets be randomized, or does the 5 and 0?
The 5 and 0s will. Yeah, they're going to be seated in, as far as I'm aware, they're going to be seated in the order. The 9 through 16 will be the finishing order of this race. So the 5 and 0s will face 7 and 8 finishers of this race, and then 9 through 14 will be seated with the 4 and 1s. The 4 and 1s will be distributed randomly, though. That is how I understand.
Yeah, so the seeding doesn't really matter, I believe, for the 4 and 1s and for the 1 through 6 finishers tonight. But the last 2 ticket grabbers, let me just double check who that was again.
Lord Fizzlebeef and High Spirits.
Yes, Lord Fizzlebeef and High Spirits were the last 2 to qualify. They will be seated against the first 2 finishers. I believe that's Salty Fry and Minochi, who are both 5 and 0.
That is correct.
And everybody else at 4 and 1, present company included, like Sforzando, will be playing randomly anyone that finished 1st through 6th, which is Ice Blue, Bratster, Edge Figaro, Bismarck, Maya, and Edgeworth.
Strong list there. I think you're missing one more in there. You named 5 names, and there's a 6th one in there somewhere.
Did I skip Bismarck? Did I skip Bismarck?
No, you said Bismarck. Maya, Bismarck, Edge Figaro, Ice Blue.
No,
maybe you said 6.
I think I said 6.
Yeah.
An impossible choice, but fortunately you don't have to pick one. You're going to be randomly assigned one, Sforzando, and I'm sure at this point there's no one you'd rather play versus anybody else, really. It's just going to be luck of the draw from now on. You got to win if you got to win.
Yeah, it's winner go home from this point. So all the people that punch the ticket, we now move into a best of 3 situation, and so yeah, there's no easy outs going forward.
All right, Jay Coper on Chaos, and to think he might finish ahead of Will here after being so far behind for so long. But he's got a Red Wizard alive, which is helpful. He gets the fast off on his knight. We'll see if he can help buff him up with some cure magic before inevitably this Red Wizard's going to die on us, I think. Now with the second ribbon, if Chaos sticks to magic, that Red Wizard might be fairly sort of, I'll stop there, as Chaos just obliterates the Red Wizard, but he does 1,000 damage with his knight. Another 476. Dodges an attack. Takes another attack. 7 hits, 476. Chaos getting low. The knight dodges another attack. Another 476. He looks like he's got it in the loop, folks. He's got a miss loop with 476. He's going to hold A to win, and that's exactly what he does.
That's it. We
Jake,
even had an RNG loop. That's nice.
yeah, it's a nice RNG loop, too. 500 damage. For those unfamiliar, if you got one person alive, there are certain circumstances where if you just hold down the button, you and Chaos will go back and forth with exactly the same attack, damage, and Chaos, whatever he's doing in that loop, he'll do, and whatever damage it does will do exactly the same. So he managed to secure a really nice loop by holding A at just the right time. It's a bit of a lucky thing, but if you can recognize it when it happens, you can take advantage of it. That's what he does. Finishes with 222. leaving just Will Cleosis still to finish.
So
And I think that
I was going to
I was
say,
gonna say-
sometimes you get
go ahead.
extra lucky, and you get an RNG loop where Chaos casts Nuke.
that could be bad. Sometimes I think that I've seen a lot of people force that knight into the third slot. Like it's something about that third slot, maybe, or maybe it's a placebo. I'm not sure, but I feel like I've seen a lot of people get that third slot RNG loop. As we've got Will Cleosis on the second round with Kraken 2. There's that opening round nuke that just totally obliterates half its party.
So rough. I believe you're right, though. I believe the third spot has... I don't know if it has to be the third spot or if it's more likely in the third spot. I believe that is a thing for the RNG loop.
You guys getting a little bit of rock music in your ear, or are we rocking out here?
Oh, it looks like maybe a small mistake by Will Cleosis. They're accidentally activating the light axe instead of probably the power gauntlet.
If you're still with us on Randomania 2, Will Cleosis, the last person to finish here in this play-in race. He's given it everything he's got, playing with a lot of heart to round out this this really tough 15 racer qualifying race. Everyone who entered had a shot, so many chances to win. Even Jay Coper, who got off to the worst start, was on the floor before Chaos when he wiped with still one spot available. So just a crazy race of twists and turns.
There was one thing about this race that was very interesting as well. It was that the Tyros were unrunnable, so you could really tell who was on Team Tyro and who was on Team Stake, because Team
It's
Tyro would reset.
Boy, that's dedication.
Yeah, you got. I mean, if you're a Team Tyro purist, I mean, you've absolutely got to reset regardless. Thankfully,
Yeah.
I'm not on Team Tyro.
It's a big
was on,
commitment.
I was on Team Tyro just on during races, on Speed Gaming or in Randomania, but in just regular ones I wasn't. But my true colors got shown today.
Yeah,
I saw 2 encounters.
I was on Team Tyro as well until I realized how juicy their meaty innards were, and how valuable they can be. And so now we've got Will just so desperately trying to wrap this up, getting through that Kraken floor. He's got his 3 intact now. That opening nuke Chaos, or the opening nuke Kraken, is just such a pain to deal with. I don't even know. Will has seen Chaos, so unfortunately, I think, right?
I think so. Joining us in chat now, Falconic, a strong race, not good enough for a qualifying spot. GG just the same. You finished with 2:16.48. What a ridiculous seed for a play-in race.
I enjoyed it. I love weird TNT ships. You better check chest or else. That's kind of what the brackets look like they're going to be, and I was really hoping to make that. But this was my seed through and through.
Just a couple minutes shy of the 8th and final qualifying spot. You danced with Chaos, I think, at least once before the thing ended. Like, you obviously could tell by that how close it was. So many racers on that bubble. How well did you check ice and then see that it wasn't the floater that you needed, and then you went and started checking everything right after that?
Yeah, I made that early dive into Volcano, just hoping that the Treasury had something and it had the Mazza, so I did a little bit of grind on the fire. And as soon as I saw TNT, I hate double dipping ice, so from now on, you'll see me full clearing it. When I saw TNT, I figured, okay, it's one of these seeds. So I'm full clearing fire as well, or Volcano, and that's where the ship was, and yeah, I was pretty happy with the rest of how everything went out. Just a shame I couldn't get a better hit on Chaos.
Yeah, that was definitely a good call. That Chaos was unfortunate because that was a double nuclear nuke Chaos as well, and you were not and I mean that whole sequence from Kraken 2 to Chaos. Nitz, how many times did I say, and so is going solo fighter? For you, it was double fighter because you survived those the Kraken nuke and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I mean, how many times did we say, and so goes in with a solo fighter?
Oh yeah, everybody just about got to Chaos with a solo fighter. Here's Will getting to Chaos if he can get through the rest of this floor with the fighter and the White Wizard, which should help a little bit as he's trying to wrap this up here and put on a solid finish for 13 of 15 racers plus Tristal. Only 2 forfeits just speaks to the strength of character of this race. Like, such a ridiculous, grueling start, terrible magic off the start, terrible gear. The floater was, heavens, Murgatroyd far away. You had to do everything to get it. And yet we've had this close a race with a huge bubble in the middle.
It appears that they may be starting the brackets reveal on Randomania.
If you want to catch the very beginning of the bracket reveal, it looks like it's going to happen on Randomania. Will Cleosis on Chaos Fight. I'm not sure if they're maybe going to wait for him or if they're going to move ahead without him. We'll see if we can, stall him for 1 minute so we can have a shot here to finish up.
You got this, Will. Get him. Will would say it's a veteran move here to be checking your armor and rearranging it post or pre-Chaos Bowl.
It's not clear if he had the ribbon on or not, but he lost his last fight against Chaos when he got rubbed, possibly right through the thing. So he's got a score to settle. Here he goes with Black Wizard, White Wizard, and a Knight to take on Chaos. One last kick at the can for Will Cleosis.
Yeah, definitely. You want to finish strong. You want to see him finish strong. So we'll definitely see how he goes as he opens up with the white shirt, Invis 2, and Defense Sword. Great early mitigation. The only thing that's going to be rough is when that first skill nuclear comes out, but he's going to try and get as much. Looks like he's going to try and go ahead and get that fast off, because if that nuclear goes off now, he's not going to get it on there. Oh, he does not get the fast on there.
Now it's a race to... Well, he's going to layer on as much evade as he can with all the ruses and the invis 2s. Those are going to stop those physical attacks virtually in their tracks. He's got enough of that done now. Now it's some power bonks and hopefully get those swings in before Chaos nukes you down. Those non-elemental attacks, nothing you can do about them.
I don't think Will has seen the Cure 4 either, so unfortunately that fade might be all for naught depending on how long this fight goes.
It's time to start swinging.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of chests. We did not find the Bane Sword. I wonder if that was in one of the Temple of Fiends chests.
Not a lot of damage out of Will. There's the nuclear. He comes through that okay.
Solid rolls there. Good crit there, 423. Unfortunately, that Cure 4 is looming, so he's got to stack some damage, and hopefully Chaos does some more melee here.
Only 80 there. We know Chaos has a fair bit of health. At least
and a fairly large amount of evasion.
Yeah, at least the vanilla 2000. And so with these piddly damage attacks, he's not going to get through it before Chaos casts Cure 4, unless he gets ridiculously lucky, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I don't know that he knows, because this was the part after he passed the rub spell is where that Cure 4 is. I don't think he saw, because he got the rub, I think, through the ribbon. And so this melee is a great sign. The longer you can prolong getting to that Cure 4, because then just beyond that Cure 4 is the nuke.
Oh!
And he does it!
3 hits, 925. Chaos is down. Everyone has finished. Will Cleosis finishes with 231.46. Good enough for 13th place of the 15 runners we were counting, but it is not good enough to punch his ticket. Will Cleosis tournament ends here. And
GG
with
Will.
that, GG Will, I'm not sure if we're going to delay any further with an interview, because I know we're getting ready to do the reveal show on Randomania 1. So if I'm not mistaken, I believe we're going to throw the host over there now. And please join us as well as we see how the final 16 are going to shake out in the Final Fantasy Randomizer Spring Tournament 2018.
Wow, what a race. What a race. We will see you guys on Randomania. I've been Sforzondo. This is Nis__. Do all the follow things. If you enjoyed this action, we will see you on Randomania 1.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, everyone. Till the next time.